Gamecock football kicking off practice. It feels like it's been a long time since we've had football season. And last night we got it back on television as well. So perfect timing, really, in multiple ways. That you get the Hall of Fame game last night, and this morning you get Gamecock football practice. I think 9:40 is official Gamecock football practice kickoff time for Shane Beamer. The new era is here. Last night it wasn't a tremendous football game to watch necessarily, but it was a celebration of the NFL and Hall of Famers. Two classes going to get inducted on Saturday night. And so from that standpoint, I felt like it was a festive atmosphere up at Canton. Bill, did you take in any of Steelers, Cowboys, and a couple of Gamecocks? I thought fared pretty well in that ballgame.
Did watch the entire first half and then went ahead and cut it off at 3-0. It was it was a ho hum game. It was football. Football was on television and that was great. That was enjoyable. So watched the first half there, but yeah, 3-0. Not exactly the thrilling football game that maybe it was your typical preseason game. Maybe it wasn't that, but enjoyable. And I'm with you. Watched a lot of the pregame. And obviously, a lot of guys being inducted last night, or I guess being announced for the Hall of Fame. And one of them that I thought was really fun was Jimmy Johnson. And the way Jimmy Johnson was, they kind of typed that. I guess I just missed that, but maybe we missed all of football last year. We just didn't pay attention to little things. But talking about how Jimmy Johnson was notified on air on the Fox set of being inducted into the Hall of Fame and seeing his emotions. Last night, seeing he and Jerry Jones sitting there together, cutting up. And were you guys watching it where they kind of bullied Jerry Jones into admitting that they have to put him in the Cowboys Ring of Honor? Did you guys catch that?
I missed that part. I think Troy Aikman was part of that deal, the pregame television coverage, and then he pops on during the game. He's wearing his Hall of Fame blazer. I was like, what is he wearing, like an ABC blazer? That doesn't make any sense. He's doing the game with Fox. This is a weird, and it took me a second to figure out it was the Hall of Fame deal. But what did they do exactly?
You talking about the bullying of Jerry Jones? So there's a ring. I'm not a Cowboys fan, so I don't really follow it. There's a Ring of Honor. And
every team has a Ring of Honor
in it, which I don't know. I don't know what you have to do to be in this Ring of Honor. So they
basically
start,
So every team has a Ring of Honor, but the Jimmy Johnson thing has been a petty thing because him and Jerry Jones have had beef for 20 years.
So they're sitting there, they're cutting up, they're having a good time. You're right. Troy Aikman was to Jimmy Johnson's left, I believe. Jerry Jones was to his right, if I remember the set correctly. But so also they start saying, well, now does this qualify Jimmy Johnson for the Ring of Honor? And Jerry Jones is like, well, it's not really my call. It's there was somebody else that he named. He's like, it's kind of their baby, and they like to protect it, and it's just like, well, you would think being in the Hall of Fame would qualify. And so do you want to go ahead and on air go ahead and say he's in the Ring of Honor? We're putting him in the Ring of Honor. And Jerry's like, what, do you want me to say it right now? You want me to make the announcement right now? They're like, yeah, go ahead, right here, on air. Go ahead. He's like, yes, there will be an announcement soon. And so then I think they started like, well, you need to do it on a Sunday. We'll all be there. So go ahead right now, tell everybody Jimmy Johnson is in the Ring of Honor. And so Jerry Jones really couldn't do anything else. He's like, yes, Jimmy Johnson will be in the Ring of Honor this year. Like, they may as well just given him a noogie and told him to go ahead and put him in the Ring of Honor. So that was fun. And Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones really were kind of cutting up and having a good time. I thought that was really good. Then Peyton Manning, did you catch him on the broadcast?
Mm-hmm.
Where it looked like he didn't want to take the typical questions that they were going to ask him. He wanted to discuss the game and promote, I guess, how he and Eli are going to do the Monday night game. So I thought that was pretty entertaining as well.
Yeah, he was giving Mike Pereira some grief, I think, as well, for wearing the vest and the three-piece suit. And it was interesting to see the interaction between he and Troy Aikman. Final score of the game, 16-3. For anyone who's keeping score at home or might have had some extra entertainment value on the line last night.
Well, the under hit, and that was pretty evident after after the first quarter. Yeah,
that'll do it.
It was like 32 points. It's like such a low under, and we weren't even sniffing it.
Izzy and Rico looked good last night, Chris says on the Facebook live stream this morning, talking about the two former Gamecocks. Israel Mukuamu making his NFL debut preseason as a rookie for the Cowboys. He got in relatively early. I think it might have been towards the end of the first quarter at safety. And other than one of the first few plays where he's trying to help down the sideline, and I think it was Claypool who beat the defensive back deep there. And Mukuamu looked like he almost avoided him as he made the diving catch and got to keep going because he kind of jumped over the guy. Other than that, I did think he was pretty effective. He had a pass defended, 3 tackles on the ball game, and then was the leading rusher last night for the Dallas Cowboys, and I thought looked really good. But it might have helped from the offensive line's openings that he had to run through for sure. But just good to have football back, and good to have this game in particular back, because this has been an interesting game through the years. Remember that show, Bill, that we came in? We're like, yeah, we don't know what happened last night at the Hall of Fame game. It got canceled, and we're not sure why exactly. And it turned out the field had basically melted, or they had painted the field, and it was too slick, and the whole thing. I mean, that was odd. And then last year, obviously, no preseason game. So just to have this thing back, have it well attended. It's also odd for me to see a guy who I associate college football with, and Saturdays and emotional stories about college football and fans or players and coaches and the whole thing. And to see him now, I know he switched over immediately last year and got right into playoff broadcasts, I think, or maybe it was the end of the regular season broadcasts on NFL and Fox. I'm talking about old Tom. What's Tom's last name? I can't think.
Rinaldi.
Yeah, Tom Rinaldi, doing all the interviews, and to see some fans trying to awkwardly get in the background of some of those interviews, especially the Calvin Johnson one in the second half. It made me have that feeling that, this is what I'm used to for football in a lot of ways. Not Rinaldi being on Fox, but some uncomfortable in-game interviews where you're celebrating much more than the game, especially preseason in early August.
Yeah, again, I didn't make it to the second half, and as Patrick said, 3-0. Not exactly the type of football that makes you want to say, yeah, I'll stay up a few more hours and see who the winner is. But it was just nice. And I'm with you, seeing the crowd, the full stadium, the energy and kind of the excitement, and just seeing everything back, watching Rico Dowd a little bit, a couple good plays by Ray McLeod as well from Clemson. So good night overall, good start. And you're right, it rolls right into the first day of practice for South Carolina this morning. So we'll be interested to hear kind of just some takeaways from that later on today. I'm actually trying to pull back up and see now if we actually have any media availability, given that there was media availability yesterday, and what exactly the schedule is in terms of hearing from coaches over the next few weeks. But it'll be interesting to hear the takeaways as we go through the weekend and now really get into, as Shane Beamer said, talking season being over, and it's time to get to work.
Did you guys know that Derek Moore was, before yesterday, did you know that Derek Moore was introducing Calvin Johnson? Was that knowledge out there?
Yeah, I remember when Calvin Johnson came to visit in Columbia a couple of weeks ago, it was, and talked to some of the Gamecock football players. And I remember I think that's when I first realized that Derek Moore, the director of player development, I believe is his title over there, came from Georgia Tech, former Carolina Panther, a relatively long-time NFL player, and played with Calvin Johnson, I guess maybe with the Detroit Lions is what it was, where they became close. He will be introducing Calvin Johnson, on Saturday night when this is going to go down. Like, I've never really thought about going to the actual ceremony. I don't know about you guys. There have been some notable ones. I feel like Michael Irvin's speech was pretty notable a while back. This is a kind of an annual signal that football season is here. You got the induction in Canton and the Hall of Fame speeches and the celebration of football. This year, though, having it double. And I know, Patrick, you mentioned how they're putting the hard out on the speech length and trying to limit that. And they said they'll play the music like the Oscars and play them off and the whole deal. It's going to be a bit of a cluster, I think. I don't think I've ever quite wanted to go to the specific induction part of it. Do like catching some of it on television every now and again. But those are the diehard of diehards, I feel like, those who attend and make it a complete part of their calendar to make the journey to Canton, Ohio for specific players or coaches or maybe just the an organization's favorite or the whole thing. You guys see Tom Brady's going to end up sitting in Peyton Manning's section, I guess, kind of out of respect for his induction in the Hall of Fame.
I love that move. I mean, I like seeing the rivals tip is like Tom Brady, who always got the better of Peyton Manning, it seemed like, except for maybe 2 times, just tipping his hat because he can acknowledge how good Peyton was. But yeah, I agree. If you're like, maybe if it was your favorite player of all time, I could see going to that as a fan, but that is a long night and the speeches are usually very long. I couldn't imagine buying a ticket. I don't know how much the tickets would even go for that.
I'm not sure how that works either, but it will be an interesting scene celebrating football Saturday.
Patrick, I'm a little surprised that you don't have that as more of a bucket list item.
Watching the tournament.
I feel like because I don't have a true team. Like growing up here, I never was a huge Falcons fan. Some people attached to the Falcons, some people attached to the Redskins, and then when the Panthers came along in the early '90s, obviously some people gravitated toward them, and I just have never been like. The Dolphins have been my team only because, like, at a book fair in 5th grade, I got a Dan Marino poster and just kind of like, oh, I think I like the Dolphins. That's about it. But because I would think that going to one introduction ceremony would be up there, closer to the top of the list of things that people would want to do in the NFL. I know you're a big draft guy. I mean, you want to go to the draft, right? You're attending the draft.
Yeah, I would enjoy going to the draft, but it would definitely have to depend on the city. I mean, if it was in a city that I wasn't interested in, then I wouldn't be interested in going to the draft. I don't necessarily care about watching the guys walk across the stage or anything that doesn't add great value to me. I like checking off my list from the comfort of my living room. And I've been to Canton. I went as a little kid, but I would definitely love to go back, but not necessarily for the enshrinement. And also, I can't think of a Redskin in my lifetime, maybe Trent Williams, that I've watched that's going to get inducted to the Hall of Fame as a Redskin. Trent Williams is the closest to it. I don't think Ryan Kerrigan is going to be a Hall of Famer.
I think that might be a big part of it as well. Your guys, last night seemed like a Steelers celebration in a lot of ways with Bill Cowher there. A couple other Steelers set to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Carlton hitting us up, always representing South Carolina State this morning. Says congratulations to Whitmire native Donnie Shell, headed into the NFL Hall of Fame and one of several South Carolina State Bulldogs to do it in the process. Other headlines you need to be aware of this morning. Asia Wilson, former Gamecock, and her fellow Team USA women's basketball team led by Gamecock head coach Dawn Staley. 12:40, I believe, was the tip-off time last night against Serbia, and that thing was over by about 1. It was complete domination. Not technically over in 20 minutes, but the competitive part was over real quick. It was 25-12 after the first quarter, and Team USA up 18 at half. They go on for a 20-point win over Serbia to cruise into the gold medal game. So good news for Team USA women's basketball. Just like the men, going to play for the gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics. I think that makes our country feel like kind of all is right in a lot of ways. And now we'll be looking for that dual gold. Maybe it won't be. Maybe we as Americans won't be satisfied until you see both teams win the gold medal, Bill. But to see this team kind of kick it into high gear when it has mattered the most, I think the narrative early on was Asia Wilson was really the only one who kind of looked like herself, averaging 20 and 10 through the first 3 games, I think it was, and really leading Team USA. And Dawn Staley saying they're still kind of working together to come together as a team. It seems like the last couple of games they've done just that and have had no problems with the important games that have gotten them now to the gold medal game.
Yeah, they shouldn't. But again, I mean, they shouldn't. I think it's just a matter of making sure everybody gels together and kind of as you pointed out, I would assume that I was trying to actually look for the score. Did you have a final score on that? Because I would imagine
39-59.
Okay, it's actually a lot closer than I actually would have predicted. But no, you're right, and they should roll along. I was now looking at the schedule. I've realized there's a schedule I can look at to tell me what's live and what's not. Is I've actually thrown on some wrestling here because I feel like what is the most Olympic sport? What do you feel? I feel like wrestling is the most Olympic sport you can have.
Yeah, it's the original Olympic sport.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go. I believe the marathon might be the original Olympic sport, right? Isn't that how it? Yeah, we've looked this
happened in times of war, running from Marathon to Athens to let them know that the Persians were coming.
I'll go with the decathlon as the most Olympic sport, even though it's 10 different events kind of combined into one. But I hear what you're saying. It got the reflection off your sliding glass door going there. It looks like they just showed a little wrestling now. Now we get the wide view of the wrestling there. I can see in the background at Bill's place as the sun's about to rise over Lake.
You can see in the reflection of my map that I'm watching the equestrian jumping, and news here. I believe the statue has been removed. Tim, you and I were talking about this. Remember the sumo statue that was spooking the horses?
That's great.
I'm watching it. They've taken a couple laps, and I have not seen a sumo statue. So I think they listened to the riders and removed the sumo statue.
Excellent news there. One other headline from last night: the Atlanta Braves. It was the weirdest 8th inning of all time. The first two guys get out, and Austin Riley ends up hitting a 2-run home run, I believe, to tie it up at that point at 4. And then 5 straight Braves, I think, walked. They walked in a bunch of runs. The Cardinals did, and Atlanta, I think they got like 3 hits in the inning, but scored 6 runs. That was nuts. But the Braves win last night, 8-4 against the Cardinals. For the first time all season, Atlanta is now above 500. And especially after making some moves, they got Adam Duvall, they got Jorge Soler, they got Richard Rodriguez, I believe, was the pitcher who was on the mound last night, looked good in relief from the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I know Braves fans are pretty pumped up. Only a game and a half, I think, behind. A game and a half behind the Mets, a game back of the Phillies there. So good news for the Braves' perspective. And a big day of talking for Gamecock football at Media Day. Wanted to take you to our first break with Shane Beamer commenting about his team coming back from the summer and how good a job that Luke Day and the strength and conditioning staff did, and how his players kind of started today. The foundation of starting today, the guys coming back and looking and feeling like they're ready for a long, hard season. That's how we'll head to our first break this morning. Plenty more coming up from Shane Beamer. I thought really interesting comments coming from DeCarrion Joyner just about his football path in general. Marshawn Lloyd speaking at length. We've got comments coming up from him and quarterback Luke Doty as well. A full Gamecock football media day recap all morning long, and that's probably where most of our discussion will be, like usual, here on the home of the Gamecocks. You're listening to the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. Here's more from Shane Beamer.
Conditioning standpoint, it was a long, hard summer. Our guys came back right after Memorial Day and cranked up there at the first week of June, and they've been nonstop since then. So fantastic the way that those guys worked, the effort they put into it, the way they came together as a team, the strides they made. We got a lot of individuals that got better as individuals and really took some giant steps. Position groups that took giant steps, and learned a lot about our football team as well. So now we take that, what we call basically the third quarter of the year, which is summer, and now we head right into preseason camp, which quote unquote is the fourth quarter in our minds. We've really made strides this summer. The NCAA allows college football teams to do even more as a staff with the players during the summertime than it has in the past when I was an assistant coach here before. So we're farther along from a mental standpoint than we normally would be in a normal year, or we normally would have been a few years ago. We've been able to have walkthroughs, meetings, and things like that. So I feel like our guys are in a good place mentally. Players have told me how good their bodies feel and how strong and in condition, in shape they are, and appreciate their efforts, our players over the summer, and what our strength and conditioning staff did as well.
This is Gamecock basketball head.
So how did basketball camp finish up yesterday, Bill? Is the question.
The kids were ready. The kids, after 4 days, the kids had about enough. The kids had had enough. We had one little skirmish breakout over a particular. So at the end of the camp, the kids, we just had a bunch of basketballs there, and we just happened to have a couple like 28.5 balls, that the kids those age could use, and they were like leather basketballs. And we had a mini brawl breakout over one of them. So I didn't want to get involved in that. So Coach Harris was able to handle that for us, and thankfully it's all over. The kids can rest this morning and not come in. They were tired. There was lots of sharks and minnows and gerbil freeze tag played yesterday.
Nice. Now, how is gerbil freeze tag different than regular freeze tag?
Dribble freeze tag?
Oh, dribble. I thought you said
That's
gerbil
gerbil.
freeze tag.
We did have one little girl. So I don't know. I guess just getting older. We did have one kid ask if he got a trophy for participating. But then we had you do the dribble freeze tag, and the way we used to do it is if you tagged somebody, they had to sit on their basketball right there, sit on the court. But then we learned this was back when I did camps years ago that then you'd have these little kids and they'd be looking backwards, looking back over their shoulder at somebody chasing them, and they would just plow over another little kid. You get a knee to the head of somebody. So we had to change it to where if you got tagged, you had to go sit on the wall down at the end of the gym just so you were out of the way and you didn't get like run over. One little girl didn't want to do that. She wanted to be an underwater creature dribble freeze tag. So I don't know where this came from, but she wanted to be an underwater creature that stings. I forget the name of it. She told me. So she wanted to be able to tag, if you were running around. So it was a very interesting camp.
Sounds like a nightmare.
I'll say this. I have so much more appreciation for teachers after the last 4 days. Because, no, I don't know how the next generation is going to go.
But the basketball camp I always did every year was just you show up like an hour of drills, then you break into your 3-on-3 teams in the 3-on-3 tournament, and then you do that until lunch, and then you break out from lunch, and it's your 5-on-5 tournament. And all we did was play games.
Let me ask, how old were you when you did that?
It was the high school basketball camp. It was elementary all the way through middle school. So
well,
it was how old are you in first grade?
7.
So 7 to 13, 14.
Yeah, this was 6 through 11-year-olds, and trying to teach them to play knockout was some of them get. I had my son and his buddy and a few other kids that were actually pretty good little basketball players, and then you had basically the church we were at has like for lack of a better word, has a daycare program for kids, and so there were kids there that it was just part of daycare. Basketball was not necessarily, and so we'd start playing 5-on-5, and a kid come up to me like, "Coach, I don't want to play." I was like, "That's fine, just go sit on the wall. It's cool."
This is co-ed though?
Huh?
This was co-ed though?
Yeah.
I hated ours because it was all boys, and we had to play shirts versus skins at age 7.
Let me tell you, even if it was all boys, you don't do shirt skins anymore. I'm pretty sure you break out the pennies and you give the pennies.
Yeah, it was not great. Nobody liked it. I didn't like being the skins, and I certainly didn't like guarding the skin.
Now, did you have to play outside? Did you ever play, when you did those camps? Was it outside on blacktop?
No, I was in the gym. We had a main court and auxiliary court right next to it, connected to each other. So we'd go sideways, and there'd be 4 courts going at a time.
Now this camp was done at Saxagatha Church, and that floor has been there for it's got to be 30 years. That's the hardest. I guess now at my age, when you play basketball like a hard floor, like almost on a concrete floor for 4 days, you feel like my left knee and my right ankle are sore. Like I can feel a difference now playing on a decent basketball floor as opposed to basically just concrete.
I only ever did camps at my high school.
Actually,
I did Stu Vetter's camp one time. He was the coach at Montrose Christian, KD's school.
I think we're gonna put Austin in my dad wants to put him in like a 1 hour golf class next week at the Country Club of Lexington.
Jen, can we do the
lacrosse early?
Can we do the culture bite coming back, please?
Straight in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. We got Gamecock Larry on the line as well.
Yep.
When you walk in the door, love, I would hope you would feel gratitude, positive energy, trust, toughness, accountability, competition. I mean, those are the things that we want this program to be about. And to me, you do those over and over again, that environment over and over and over again, that becomes, your culture.
Shane Beamer, yesterday, Gamecock Media Day, basically declaring that football talking season is over, and now it's time to actually get into football on the field this morning. 9:40, I believe, is technically Carolina's kickoff time for practice. Everything's closed to the public. I think there'll be some TV cameras and a few of us media nerds allowed out for the first few minutes of practice, so you'll be able to see some of it throughout the day and on the old 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock news. But as far as being able to see it for yourself, your own two eyes, that's not going to happen this preseason, at least at this point, with some COVID concerns. And DC did ask earlier, what do we think the odds are about the season going and the COVID stuff? And we're not going to get into that today. It's all speculation at this point. And I know Ray Tanner was optimistic about it, and everything's moving forward as far as full capacity at Williams-Brice Stadium. And it sounded like Shane Beamer really positive about vaccination numbers for his team, that they'll be well over the 85% kind of threshold that's been talked about in sports here in several days, when a lot of his guys end up getting their second vaccination shot. So we will not spend our time on that. I do want to give the injury update because I thought that was notable yesterday. I feel like this is the first test for Shane Beamer with a lot of Gamecock fans, Bill, in so many ways, right? But especially from the injury news standpoint, where it became a bit of a joke on this show. And I think it just in general, the injury updates that we would get from Will Muschamp, just how much we could believe them. I get you can't reveal everything to the public and the whole deal, especially from an injury standpoint. A lot of times you need to protect your players and your team, and certain information shouldn't get out there, but it was kind of laughable sometimes, the injury updates we got from Will Muschamp, and what a loose relationship they had with the actual truth, let's say, reality.
What was it? I'm trying to think. You and I went to the press conference, and I'm walking in, and Zach Bailey, I forget what year this was.
It was
Zach
pretty
Bailey,
early on.
Is on a scooter with his leg in a cast in the parking lot, and I think I told you, I was like, oh, that can't be good. He's on a scooter, and I think Muschamp comes in, he's like, yeah, he might be back this weekend. I was like, well, I guess you could put someone in a cast for precautionary reasons. Like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and no, he was out for like 4 to 6 weeks, I think. Again, that was before he broke his leg in the Akron game. But yeah, it was to say a loose relationship with the truth on injuries from Will Muschamp might be an understatement. So we
only mentioned that, right, because of that news yesterday, and this is the environment that Shane Beamer steps into. So if I think what we heard from Shane Beamer yesterday becomes reality, in that he doesn't think any of the injuries that he mentioned and guys not starting 100% full go in preseason training camp. He doesn't think any of that's going to linger or be a serious injury. If that comes to fruition, then I think Gamecock fans can kind of start looking at these preseason addresses or podium talks, podium injury updates a lot more favorably than they have in the last few years. I have to start with Kevin Harris, the big-time running back coming back for Carolina, went over 1,000 yards, first time since 2013 when Mike Davis did it, I think, back in the day. He's not officially cleared for 100% of practice because of a back procedure that, again, Shane Beamer just said basically was to clean up a relatively minor issue, expects him to be cleared for the first game and ready to go, and says Kevin Harris feels good and has been kind of lobbying the trainer Clint Haggard to go ahead and clear him and get ready to go. So let's start with Kevin Harris there, Bill. Where are you when you hear back procedure and you hear Shane Beamer certainly talking it down and pretty confident that his big-time running back will be back on the field very soon, 100% ready to go?
I mean, it's concerning. It's not what you want to hear. Back procedure. I mean, what exactly is a back procedure? Like, do you know anybody who's ever had like a back procedure that was simple? Are there? I mean, I've cleaned something up. I feel like knee or elbow or wrist or ankle is where you go in and clean something up. It takes a few days to get back to going. But I would assume back procedure and football combined are not good news. But I don't know. I have no clue. And maybe it's not our right to know what exactly was done. That's fine by me. But yeah, it's something that definitely, I think, raises your eyes there, raises the eyebrows when you hear back procedure, just because, again, football, the contact and everything that goes along with it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see where he goes from there.
Yeah, again, I mentioned the Will Muschamp part of this because it's where Gamecock fans, it's how Gamecock fans are listening to this, I think, only naturally and logically coming off of the former coach. So the next one that seemed to be a bit of a concern, Cam Smith has been getting a lot of high reviews, a lot of high marks, I think, from teammates and coaches about improvement, and is certainly a highly recruited guy out of Westwood High School here in Columbia, and had a lot of expectations and hasn't lived up to those through a couple of years, and needs to live up to those in a lot of ways for this Gamecock football team, for the secondary to recover from a lot that has left with transfers and John Dixon. And then, of course, last night we talked about Israel Mukwame playing with the Dallas Cowboys, J.C. Horn going to the Carolina Panthers, more transfers out of there as well in the secondary. So to hear that he had a foot procedure recently, I think, as well, and is not cleared. And then I think there's a picture on Gamecock Central, or maybe this was the State, that I saw that is him sitting on the sidelines in a boot as well. Where are you at with the Cam Smith injury news, Bill?
Well, that seems a little bit, I mean, that's not good news. And again, we'll see how long he is actually out. But when you're going through the July kind of 7-on-7s or the player organized workouts or whatever it is, yeah, you're going to always sustain a minor injury to someone somewhere along the line, a twisted ankle or something. This obviously been a little bit more of a procedure. I assume he would be fine. That when you hear foot, you go, okay, yeah, that happens. We'll see when he comes back, as opposed to hearing back and not really knowing what exactly the injury is. And so I would expect Cam Smith to be back. I think that was Beamer's message yesterday. So he'll be back for the Eastern Illinois game. And certainly he's a guy that, because of the recruiting you mentioned, was a guy that South Carolina did beat Georgia on for, and Georgia legitimately wanted him. And is a guy that is expected to make a big jump this year and solidify one side of the defensive secondary and be a guy that, you know, can really hold down that fort. So we'll see how it goes for him. But I would assume he's back, just based on what Shane Beamer did when he put a realistic timeline of, all right, he'll definitely be back by the Eastern Illinois game.
Bam Scott, junior college linebacker, coming into Carolina, and Ja'Kai Moore, a returning starting offensive lineman, several starts, I guess I should say. Both of those guys not 100% cleared either, as well as walk-on tight end Patrick Reedy. That was kind of the injury report from Shane Beamer, maybe a little bit longer than I expected to hear yesterday, but I probably went in there naive at this time of year with all the off-season work. And again, Beamer touched on this as well, the way that the coaching staff gets to be around its team much more than in years past. He felt like his program, his team is more prepared than it would have been with the previous rules in place, and is feeling pretty good and positive and optimistic. So I don't want to misshape what he was saying or his message. I just think it's a different conversation, I think, amongst Gamecock fans who have been around and have heard injury reports now for years and years, and then seen reality turn much differently than what you hear on a podium from a Gamecock head football coach to what we heard from Shane Beamer yesterday. We'll let you hear more from him as we continue to roll on. First, though, wanted to get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Our buddy, favorite 87-year-old caller, Gamecock Larry, up early this morning, and I'm sure wanting to discuss some of what was talked about yesterday from the Gamecock football standpoint, although I never know exactly what Gamecock Larry wants to talk about, other than it's trash talking time. Right, Gamecock Larry?
29 days before kickoff, 3 days before trash talking time. I want to say a little bit about yesterday. I finally got out of the house, got my daughter to take me out to the Palmetto Express. Lord, I'm done give out. That's the best, but that's the best chicken I had since Grandma's cooking 80-something years ago. But, and I met some old friends. I saw some old friends, met some new friends. Mr. Alexander and his wife, I really enjoyed talking to them. We're going to get together on tailgating. Then I heard my phone buzzing. And old Legion of Doom, I can't get rid of them, seem like, since they think Gamecock Larry getting wound up at trash talking time. But I'll tell you something. They called me, old Root Hog called me talking trash. Clemson Sean called me talking trash. But I'm going to tell you something. He who laughs, laughs best. And Gamecock Larry going to have fun in 2021. I'm going to tell you something. We got something that you don't know what we got because we don't know what we got. But we got the Beamer Steamer and the Lane Train. And we're going to go. And Mr. Heist's barbecue was good. But I ain't supposed to be talking about that. What do you call that thing? I don't know what you call it. But anyway, I really enjoy it. I want all the 107.5 and the Gamecock Nation to have a good weekend. Get ready, because I'm going to get my notebook down and start getting some things squared away where I can talk a little bit Monday or Tuesday morning. But I think I'll be ready by Monday. But I want all of you to stick in there. Don't worry about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, because we're going to be in the Final Four in 2024. Go Gamecocks.
Gamecock Larry, ladies and gentlemen, our favorite 87-year-old, out on location with a halftime show yesterday. Wow. Good to see that. I was going to ask him. Go ahead.
What was happening 87 years ago? They were making kids eat chicken before they had teeth?
Apparently, as opposed to, how most newborns do it, Gamecock Larry came out of the womb eating some fried chicken. That's what I heard.
You've got a 1-year-old, a little bit older than a 1-year-old. Like, is that part of the zero res issue? Like, are y'all giving him fried chicken and it's
not quite the fried chicken yet, but he does like the chicken. It's one of his first few words. So maybe he and Gamecock Larry are on the same path. I'm good with that. Good to hear Larry's fired up and got out and was doing some talking yesterday. Root Hog did just hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line and said he's fixing to drop off Gamecock Larry a biscuit there shortly and tell him that he's pretty pumped up. I think he heard Lame Train. I think I heard Lane Train instead of Shane Train. It happens. We all know what Gamecock Larry meant.
No, that's Root Hog.
I think he said it.
Be honest,
in one of the other calls.
How good is his hearing?
Good point. Yeah, he said the Lane Train before. I understand.
I was confused too, because is he actually just a genuine Lane Kiffin guy?
No, he
couldn't remember if he was going to bat for Lane Kiffin to get a South Carolina job at some point.
He's all about Shane Beamer, and optimistic, and I'm confused about the trash talking time. Now he's saying it's 3 days away. Is he starting it on Monday again?
Also,
Is that the deal?
Also was confused there because it feels like the goalposts keep getting moved on time frames. Like I'm never sure of the time frame. He not only does he need a new notebook, Gamecock Larry might need a new calendar just so we can circle the exact dates of when things happen. So one final question I have, just because I never saw it posted on Twitter and I left early yesterday. The he who laughs best. I can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Who did I get for NASCAR?
You ended up with your number one pick there, Chase Elliott. The other guys went out.
The
box.
favorite, huh?
Yeah.
No wonder you guys are always losing to me. You don't even know who the favorite is to take?
Just gonna just hold on. I'll be there in about 30 minutes.
You know what?
I'm
starting to think you guys are doing this on purpose. You're trying to lose.
That's what we're doing because we enjoy listening to you so much.
Yeah. There's your trash talking season. I've started it today.
Todd says, cut Gamecock Larry some slack, guys. Come on. Anthony says, I'll go to war for Gamecock Larry anytime. And P.S., the offer still stands to sponsor him on any high school football tickets that he wants. Good for you, Anthony.
I think we should sponsor him on the live stream. What would it take to get Gamecock Larry on a live stream and we could just add like opposing fans and just let them go back and forth?
Oh, you mean video-wise? We need to get them up and trash talk. We'll have a whole trash talking corner. We can put them in on our live stream. Maybe just not even have the audio up, just have him pointing and yelling and Gamecock Larry looking at his notebook and wagging his finger and the whole. That would be pretty fun.
I mean, we wouldn't have to do anything. We could just pull him up, put him up, and then just we could find whoever we had the Tennessee caller the other day. We could have Clemson Sean on there. We could have Todd on there talking about Alabama.
Sure,
I wouldn't care.
Rocky Top Al, why wouldn't we put him in there?
Yeah,
I don't think this is him weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Looks like an anonymous texter asking Bill. You were asking about a minor procedure with a back.
Yeah,
Does that even exist?
I read that text and that I'm not very good with like procedures and stuff like that, explaining like blood or anything like that. Even the way the anonymous, and I do appreciate the anonymous texter giving that information because it does explain something and it is informative, but it made me queasy just reading it.
Okay. Oh, let me read it to everyone else. You can take off your headset if you can't handle this massive graphic. It's not massively graphic at all. I didn't get that. Maybe it's just I hear things a little differently. The texter just simply said there are minor back procedures nowadays. A few years back, I had a herniated disc removed. Literally walked in. They made a small incision, pulled it out, sewed me up. I walked out a couple hours later, almost like brand new. Patrick, did that have any kind of effect on you over there?
No, I don't even know what. I've heard it. I don't know what a herniated disc means, but no, I'm okay.
Okay.
And I don't like gross stuff either.
Shane Beamer says the honeymoon period is over, and someone very close to him gave him the most, I guess, the starkest reality check that there might be. Let you hear what that was when we come back here. Plenty more from Gamecock Media Day yesterday. It's that to carry on Joyner stuff I found most interesting, and then Marshawn Lloyd as well. I've only heard him speak a few times and address the media kind of publicly, and every time I come away pretty impressed. And I think Gamecock fans will be fired up to hear his comments as well. So we'll continue to get into more of that as we roll on this morning. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join, you can call or text here on the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Hey, we've got a way to help you with that.
Clear.
Call for work.
Trey says he's ready to pop in our fan corner there.
You guys seen John Lynch's ears?
That might be the strangest conversation starter I've ever heard.
Yeah, but he has elf ears big time. I've never seen a person with as much of elf ears as John Lynch.
Never noticed.
They're not necessarily pointy at the top, but like the shape of them is just bizarre. I'm gonna type in John Lynch ears on Twitter. People have been talking about that.
Where's Messi heading?
I think it's gonna be PSG.
PSG?
Yep.
I couldn't give you one of those. What one of those letters stand for?
I couldn't.
Yep.
I think Saint. Are you going Saint on the S?
No clue.
What about the P? The P is really all you need to know.
Port?
Paris?
Yeah, Paris.
Yeah, Paris is my other guess.
Paris Saint-Germain.
Paris what?
Saint-Germain.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
two
you
of
got
them.
two out of
Germain.
three.
Germain. They're one of the richest clubs in the world. They've got Mbappe and Neymar currently, so Messi would just make them unstoppable up top.
I mean, are they the Lakers? You're getting all the old guys?
Mbappe is like 21.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he is the kind of the guy right now. He's 22. Do you know who he is, Tim? Have you heard of him? He's the one that
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he burst onto the scene in the World Cup. People knew who he was, but I think he was 19 at the time and was one of the best players in the World Cup.
Well, also one of the best names. I mean, who doesn't want to say Mbappe?
Yeah, Kylian Mbappe. Neymar was a superstar at a very young age too. He's still under 30, but he's probably pushing 30 at this point.
See, like, if I think Billy called Bill's bluff and then like gave a bunch of unnecessary details, I feel, about his own back procedure, I can see that like having an effect on you. Just the word incision got you, Bill?
Yeah, that's the. I don't handle stuff like that well. Getting worse as I get older too.
Don't read Billy's text then.
I have some gnarly pictures of all the procedures I've gotten.
New episode of Ted Lasso tonight.
Are you caught up, Bill?
You're in, yeah. He says he's all caught up.
Have you watched? Are you caught up?
No, I don't know how many I'm waiting for, but I'm gonna binge.
How many you're waiting for?
Yeah, I didn't want to watch them 20 minutes at a time and then just be left waiting and wanting more.
I think we'll identify really well with that last episode and the television appearance.
Is it 4 that are out or 3 or more?
2.
We're back in.
Only 2?
Today's the third.
Three.
Third. Today will be the third.
Yeah, 3 straight in.
About 2 or 3 days here at the beginning of the week. Had a fantastic time as a family. We were out riding bikes on the beach a couple of days ago, and my son, who turned 8 last weekend, he was riding alongside of me. He pulled up. He said, "Man, Daddy, I'm so excited about football season starting. I'm so excited for the Gamecocks." On and on and on. I was like, "Man, me too, man. I'm so excited. Can't believe it's here. Got a fun team. Can't wait to start practice." And then it kind of got quiet when he looked at me and he said, "Try not to get fired this year." And true story. I wish that was a joke. So he's 8, and the honeymoon phase is clearly over in my house. So I know him is as well. But he's a competitor, and he's ready to get going just like we are.
Shane Beamer yesterday, part of his opening comments on Gamecock Media Day, where there's definitely a new feel, a new energy for Gamecock football, and I think Shane Beamer's 8-year-old is pretty well tuned in to the rest of Gamecock football fans when it comes to the honeymoon period and Shane Beamer. It has been a nice breath of fresh air, wouldn't you say, Bill? And now it's time to get down to it and see what can happen on the field. They kick off practice, I believe, 9:40 this morning.
Yeah, no, it's been certainly, I think for South Carolina fans who desperately needed some positive energy and just positive vibes. The last 9 months have been very good. We talked about it though. You knew we brought this back up in December that Shane Beamer would win press conferences and would win the media and would win the talking circuit. now he'll win again for this month because they'll talk some more. There's at least another 4 weeks. What is it? Another 4 weeks? Is that right? Let's see. You got the 7th, the
4 weeks from tomorrow, Bill.
28th. So four Saturdays. Well, I say that I always get a little tripped up just because to me, at least having some football on the 28th, some college games, UCLA, Hawaii, Nebraska, Illinois, at least gives us an appetizer there of the opening weekend. But he'll win those. It'll be positive. I do think it'll be now that there will be more football to discuss, quarterback situations, how the wide receivers are progressing, what Torian Gray is seeing from the defensive backs. Instead of just selling the vision, he'll be talking about the vision. That'll be kind of fun to start hearing about.
It was very interesting to hear from DeCarrion Joyner yesterday talking about, well, he got to the place where he didn't know if he wanted to keep playing football. And he says Justin Stepp, the new wide receivers coach, is a big part of the reason why he kind of rekindled his love for the game. We'll let you hear a lot of his comments as we roll on this morning. Also, Marshawn Lloyd, you mentioned positive energy and enthusiasm. He's a big reason why Gamecock fans are extra excited, I think, about the running back core, along with Kevin Harris, a guy who went for more than 1,000 yards. And Lloyd is a really interesting guy, speaking very confidently in a humble way, if that's possible. You can decide for yourself. We'll let you hear it. Coming up in hour number 2. That's next here on the Early Game on 107.5 The Game.
Gamecock Athletics Director Ray Tanner, and you're listening.
Patrick, have you even seen any of Ted Lasso?
Have I what?
Have you watched any of Ted Lasso?
I've seen the first season, yeah. I was waiting for more episodes to come out of season 2 so I could just binge it for 2 hours.
Gotcha. So since you've seen the first season, am I the only one that the Jamie Tart song, it gets stuck in your head?
Jamie Tart,
Yeah.
Oh man, that's our go-to with the 1-year-old. He loves that song. We'll sit him in his little chair, basically strap him down and play that song. And my wife was talking to her mom yesterday. She's like, "Yeah, I just noticed it has 9 billion views on YouTube." Literally,
Jamie Tart does?
No, that's Baby Shark.
Baby Shark
is the tune there, and it has 9 billion views on YouTube. Crazy.
3 billion of them are Nationals fans.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was an old McDonald song on YouTube that Ansley loved growing up, and then Wheels on the Bus.
Apparently, did you see Scherzer get a curtain call after his first start?
You brought this up yesterday when I was here, so this is really eating at you.
No. There's a follow-up. He was interviewed and said that's the first time in his career he's ever gotten a curtain call. Which is very hard for me to believe, but a lot of people were bent out of shape in DC about that because they felt like he was taking a shot. Which I don't think he was. I know he loves DC and he'll go to the Hall of Fame as a National, but I don't know. Do pitchers frequently get curtain calls?
I don't think so.
Do you deserve?
Good fan bases appreciate good pitching.
Yeah, but how are you going to curtain call somebody when he pitches a no-hitter?
Don't let him go in the clubhouse after the game. You just continue to cheer until he comes back out and waves. Travis,
he's getting pied in the face and things like that.
True. And you could say in DC they have jobs to go home to. In LA they can sleep in and just get on social media.
It's true.
Was that at your whose house was that just at? Was that my house? That horn that just went off?
Wasn't mine.
I didn't hear anything.
Jamie Tart.
That's probably the most unanimously loved show that's come out in a really long time.
It's a really good. I mean,
what's second even?
don't
Maybe
know.
Schitt's Creek.
I don't
that
know.
one's been. I don't think that's had the cult. I think that's been more of a cult classic than Ted Lasso. Did Ted Lasso win any awards?
I wouldn't say it's a cult classic when it won like 25 Emmys.
But I don't feel like it's gotten the reception that Ted Lasso did. Like I watched some of Schitt's Creek, and that was pretty fun. That has been. I probably should watch more of it.
I've never seen a second of it.
They just put 30 Rock on Netflix, so I got back into watching some of that.
I mean, everyone loves The Office. No, I don't think anyone has watched The Office and not liked it.
The Office is
Yeah.
Only that guy.
I don't.
Only that guy.
Right.
So I shouldn't say that I never got into The Office.
Right.
No, you can say
guy.
that. You can say you've never like watched it, but if you watch it all and been like, yeah, I didn't like it very much,
I got you.
that I would think is different. I mean, like Game of Thrones was the biggest show ever, but there's plenty of people that are like, yeah, this is not my cup of tea.
Yeah. No, that was not. That was you had to have a bit of a tough stomach for that one.
Kind of.
You had to get into the science fiction of it all as well.
I mean, there was just some stuff that happened in that thing that, like, some of the deaths and what was it, Ramsey Snow?
Yeah, but you didn't even see it.
That's what it'll get you when Bill can let his imagination wander. That's what gets him. What was it? What was the other scene? The red wedding. That was what they called
Yeah,
it.
that one was horrifying.
The dude with the they popped the head. Dude popped his head basically.
Yeah.
Was that the mountain?
When the mountain popped the Viper's head.
That was something.
The Red Wedding is actually what got me into Game of Thrones because I wasn't really watching Game of Thrones, and then everybody started talking about the Red Wedding, and I watched the.
It's probably. It could be the most famous scene in television history at this point because there's YouTube. The YouTube videos of people's just reactions were so popular for a while because everyone made sure that if someone was starting Game of Thrones over while you had already seen it, everyone made sure that like I'm gonna watch the Red Wedding with you.
The creepy reaction video where you're holding out your phone just trying to get them.
I mean, I did that with all of my friends. I didn't film it, but all of my friends that watch Game of Thrones, because that's one of those shows that I watched from the first season, so I was always ahead. And I would always make sure that I was with them when they watched that episode.
That's when you know it's good TV, when you watch other people's reaction.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it all the way through probably 4 times.
Jen, thank you for all this editing. So let's utilize it. Start with number 4 here. Straight in, please. And then we'll get to number 8 and 9 here in this first segment is my plan.
Yeah, let's talk a little football.
Now I'm telling the team that it's okay losing 5 games. I mean, we expect to win every single game that we play. And that's the mindset that we have as competitors. But to me, a successful season would be to maximize the ability and the potential of every single player, every unit, and the entire team. And if I feel like we've done that, that'll be a successful season. And if we're able to do that, the wins will certainly take care of themselves.
Shane Beamer, yesterday's media day for Gamecock football, a day ahead of today's kicking off. Gamecock football practice, 9:40 this morning, I think, is when kickoff is set to go official for Shane Beamer's first preseason practice. And you can hear, or I hear there, Bill, Shane Beamer's savvy. that he mentioned he's already done this a bunch of times, and it was asked yesterday. The question asked that was, what's a successful season to him? He said, yeah, I got this 8 times at SEC Media Days. I got this one down. And that is an example, I think, of how Shane Beamer comes to this job and why Gamecock football fans are excited or can be optimistic, maybe more so than another first-year head coach who might not have the savvy or maybe just the personality to deal with that type of question and come off as relatively genuine and honest, and at the same time evading things a little bit. I think that was maybe one of Will Muschamp's issues, is that it seemed pretty obvious when he wasn't giving us the full truth there. We talked about in hour number 1 with the injury update that Beamer gave yesterday, and how Gamecock fans are a bit scarred, I think, from the Will Muschamp injury news that he would put out, and it had very little to do with reality and how it would be a big departure from actually what would happen and how much time guys would miss. But with Kevin Harris out with a back procedure and not 100%, but Shane Beamer does expect him to be back in camp and going at 100% really soon. Then you got a couple of other guys like Cam Smith and Ja'Kai Moore on the offensive line not going 100% today. Interesting environment for sure, as it always is for Gamecock football when you kick off. I think extra interesting this year with a new coach and just dealing with expectations maybe tempered a bit after 8 losses in both of the last 2 seasons for Carolina football, Bill.
Well, anytime you get a new coach, if this had been Billy Napier or I guess you can throw Hugh Freeze in there, or Jamie Chadwell, you'd have a level of excitement because it's a new coach. I mean, that's when the previous coach doesn't have any success or doesn't succeed, and you have to bring in a new one, it does create just new hope, and that's where South Carolina fans are today. And again, Shane Beamer, his approach, I think, is different than most coaches, just in that, look, South Carolina, what I'm saying is not a surprise, and should not shock anybody, but it's not a destination job. It's not one that people look at and like, oh, yeah, I'd like to go get that job. It's become maybe a little bit more attractive because of what Steve Spurrier did. People realize you can win here. But Shane Beamer has treated it like a destination job, like one that he has coveted all of his life. And there's truth to that. And there's a genuine feel from Shane Beamer. And I think, let's say if it was Jamie Chadwell or Billy Napier, if those guys had gotten the job, I think they would be appreciative of it. I don't know if it would be conveyed the way they feel about it that Shane Beamer has. So I think that's one thing that has brought people closer to this program, or at least brought them back in and created a level of excitement that is there today. The other part is, man, I think it's just getting back to having some football that you can get excited about. I don't know, Tim, I remember, I don't want to say there was never any energy, because South Carolina went out in Will Muschamp's second year and beat North Carolina State up in Charlotte. They went out to Missouri and won that game. And Heath Klein and I were doing the pregame show the day that South Carolina was playing Kentucky, and it was an electric environment. It was returning to what it had been prior to the very first Texas A&M game. So to say that, well, there was never any excitement in the Will Muschamp era is inaccurate, because that day Heath and I were doing the show, and I remember vividly, he and I talking about it as we came on and said, this is what South Carolina football was like back at the beginning of the decade. People were geared up. South Carolina hit a pass to start the game, and then we all know where it went from there. But there is a level of excitement, and I think you'll see that. The good news, I believe, you get Eastern Illinois, who's a bad FCS team. They're not a good FCS team. South Carolina should handle Eastern Illinois. I know people weighed in earlier this week or yesterday, I guess, because I've only been on one day, and said, well, we've lost to Citadel, we've lost to Appalachian State in the last few years. You can't take anybody for granted. I'm not saying South Carolina should take Eastern Illinois for granted, but you guys will agree, this is Citadel was a good FCS team. Appalachian State was a good non-Power 5, team. I mean, those were good teams. They were conceivably at those times, those were better teams than South Carolina.
App State for sure.
And yeah, and so with that being said, having Eastern Illinois and allowing yourself to go out and have a get well game which when you play a 10-game SEC schedule and Vanderbilt's the only get-well game, you need one of those to continue to build confidence and excitement. So I think it's a good thing. I think there's a lot of reason for optimism right now. I will continue to be interested to hear as we move through the season Shane Beamer talk when you face adversity and how he responds to that.
Well, as you were speaking, Bill, I think Gamecock fans have run the gamut from head coaches, new head coaches to the program now, the last 3. I think Steve Spurrier taking over from Lou Holtz was about as high as you could get favorability rating going in. I know Gamecock fans didn't necessarily embrace or really like Steve Spurrier when he was at Florida, but as far as respect and optimism for him being able to get results coming in the program, I mean, you can't get a much more proven winner than a guy who had, 6 SEC championships coming to South Carolina with Steve Spurrier. And then on the opposite end of that spectrum was Will Muschamp coming in, I think. A guy who had really the opposite career at Florida. I know there were some who were excited or kind of headstrong about the idea that he has something to prove and plenty of SEC experience and the whole deal. But I feel like that upon first hearing about the news, the genuine emotional reaction was pretty polar opposite than Steve Spurrier. And now I feel like Shane Beamer is somewhere in the middle, having been an unproven head coach and not having any of that baggage from the Will Muschamp approach or that resume of winning and proven pedigree that Steve Spurrier had. It is something that Gamecock fans haven't experienced in a long, long time, several decades since Brad Scott took over, coming off a really successful offensive coordinator stint with Florida State and Bobby Bowden back in the day. But what you talked about, Bill, there, I think is massively important for where Gamecock football fans are as we sit here today, as Carolina football will kick off preseason practice a little later on this morning, how Shane Beamer has spoken about this program differently than any other player or coach I think ever associated with Gamecock athletics in a lot of ways. That he hasn't taken a back seat or compared it to other places he's been negatively. I mean, Steve Spurrier just laughed at basically the history and the lack of track record and trophy case coming in, and he could because of his background. And then Will Muschamp famously or infamously was just saying that loyalty goes to who signs the paycheck. And there was nothing unique about him coming to South Carolina compared to where else he's been in the SEC, as opposed to now Shane Beamer embracing a state where he was born and a program that he's already been a part of and seen win back in the day of Steve Spurrier and help recruit a bunch of really good players. But it still is a huge question mark. And some of the most interesting questions I thought asked yesterday were about his sideline demeanor and making decisions as a head coach for the first time and the whole deal. Some of his answers to that I thought definitely notable. We're going to play you those. Right now, I wanted to let you hear from DeCarrion Joyner, who I thought had the most interesting comments of all yesterday. And this one certainly stood out to me. It was just mentioned to him that Justin Stepp, his new wide receivers coach there, always singing his praises and the whole thing. And then DeCarrion Joyner kind of got into where he has come from in kind of his football journey coming to Carolina as a Fort Dorchester Mr. Football in the state of South Carolina and as a quarterback and how that didn't work out. And now he's trying to make himself a wide receiver, and certainly Gamecock football fans want him to step up and be a playmaker, and the offense needs that from any kind of wide receiver. But wanted to let you hear from DeCarrion Joyner here as we take our first break in hour number 2, 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the program here, it's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Coach Stepp has changed the game for me. Shout out to Coach Stepp because I wasn't sure how much I loved you know what I'm saying, going into January. I've been through so much, you know what I'm saying, but I love Coach Stepp. I appreciate him so much. Just always on me, you know, pushing me to get better every single day, pushing me to just take those next steps, not just as a football player, but as a leader and as a man every single day. But I definitely appreciate it.
The game is on the air, online, on your phone or tablet, on the app, Alexa, Siri, in your gym room.
wrestler for China is a big dude. He's getting whipped by the guy from Iran.
That wrestling you're talking about, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching that, and I'm watching what is the biking thing where they're on like a curved track and they're just sprinting around the track.
Not sure.
It's wild.
I think that's called the Peloton.
Oh, the biking.
Wait, that's what the event's called?
I believe so.
Now we're going to commercial. Come on. It's a relay. It's crazy. But there were 100 something laps.
Oh, man.
No, so I'm apparently wrong. Peloton is basically the group of bikers riding together. Our cycling Olympics.
Oh, Iran won. Tim, they do have, they do, not that I'm getting some tires changed on my car, but they do have media availability for Beamer afterwards today, don't they?
I believe so.
We got up to Raleigh last Saturday. How often do y'all check the tires on your, not included? How often do y'all check the tires on your car? Like, is that something you frequently do, or?
What do you mean check them?
Yeah, if you mean by look at them and see if they look flat, then I need to do something. That's how often I check my tire.
Like the tread on your tires.
Tread?
Not the tread. I mean, mine is horrible because I drove over a nail on some of the construction on Sumter probably like a month ago. So now I have one new tire and 3 old tires, which is horrible for the car, but I cannot afford to put more tires on. So I check them pretty frequently.
When I get my oil changed and the guy says, hey, man, your tire tread is basically laughable and unacceptable and you got to get your tires changed.
Okay, so you would be in the same spot that I did. We got up to Raleigh last Saturday. I know I need to get the oil changed, but I'll probably actually do that today too. But anyway, I get up there to Raleigh and I had my tire turn, like as we were in the little cul-de-sac and my sister's, I turned the tire so I could see the inside of my front left tire. I saw the wire on it.
Yeah, that's not good.
We ended up changing and putting the spare tire on there, so I had to get 2 tires ordered from the Firestone here in Lexington.
I think it's called a cord.
Huh?
I think it's a cord, not a wire, but that's okay.
I know what you meant.
Is it a cord?
I think there's cords in them, in the tire.
I think it's wires. You know what? As the lead NASCAR guru in this group, I'm going to go with wire.
Okay, that's great. Do you know a quick way how to check your tread as far as how deep it is?
Put a penny in there.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? If it's supposed to be above the head,
like
I believe.
The head. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have heard that.
Ford road trips, that's probably a wise move, RL and Justin.
Yeah. And especially if you know your tires are older, you know, like if it's a 30,000 mile tire, is it a 50,000 mile tire? Like,
yeah. Yeah, Justin, I probably should have done that. Yeah, Craig.
Good warning.
Come by on the boat. Swing by if I'm here. Come by on the boat. If you've got.
Let's do number 9 here, Jen. Coming straight in.
Renting a boat.
9 straight in. Yep.
Thank you.
communication that goes hand in hand. My coaches and my teammates have helped me be so comfortable at this point. I'm not where I want to be, but I definitely am more comfortable than ever. And this season, I just watched God work. You know what I'm saying? Things happen for a reason. I'm ready to roll, man.
To carry on Joyner, yesterday's Gamecock football media day. You heard a few minutes ago him talking about the impact Justin Stepp has had on him, his position coach at wide receiver, and how he wasn't sure if he still loved the game of football back in January. And it's easy to understand and appreciate the honest comments there. Haven't quite heard it in this way from DeCarrion Joyner before, but Bill, what do you make of what you heard from DeCarrion Joyner and what he can bring to this 2021 version of Gamecock football as they kick off preseason practice this morning?
Well, right now I think he brings leadership and experience and maybe even a calming influence on the team, given kind of what you hear him talking about and again his time with the program.
Can I ask you right there, Bill? Can a guy who doesn't perform or produce a bunch on the field really be a team leader? That was always Steve Spurrier's deal. He's like, yeah, leaders have to actually lead on the field, and that has been, I think, part of the issue with the DeCarrion Joyner or other guys trying to step up for Gamecock football through the last couple of years, in my opinion, that they haven't necessarily been there and been very productive on the field game in and game out.
I think the answer to that can be yes. It takes a strong personality, and I do think DeCarrion Joyner has that. I do agree with you. Now, where I was going to go with that is there is an element that he does need to produce on the field, but I think he's going to be given every opportunity. I mean, I think all of us would be shocked if he's not in the starting lineup on barring, as long as he's not injured. But if he doesn't trot out there with the first team offense for the Eastern Illinois game to take the first snap, we'd be surprised, right? You guys would be very surprised by that?
Shocked is taking it too far. Maybe slightly surprised is where I'm at on that. Patrick, what about you?
There's really not too much that could surprise me with how the receiver room is going to shake out. I mean, we just don't know. No one has a track record. Like, there's no Shi Smith. There's no one that you say, all right, well, if all else fails, this guy is at least going to be there.
Yeah, I would maybe lean to, if he's healthy, and this is the question for him, is Ortre Smith, because we did at least see some production from him his freshman year, but we don't know how healthy he is. There's no telling. I mean, just in terms of him getting back out there.
Well, Bill, just quickly, Ortre spoke yesterday as well and mentioned that his knee is 100%. It's as good as it's ever felt, is what he said out of his own mouth yesterday. I think we got to take him for his word, but we also have to take into account what we've seen, and clearly he hasn't been himself for the last couple of years on the field.
Well, as Patrick said, I like the positive vibe that they're giving. I like everything that was said yesterday. It's all great and dandy, but I think Patrick and I are scarred. I think a lot of people are scarred. We opened the program talking about the injury situation, and Shane talking about Cam Smith and Kevin Harris, and how much do you believe in what he's saying about the injuries? I think we're all scarred by things that have been said over the last 4 or 5 years that have just not come to fruition, whether it's us being told to go get a ticket and our popcorn for the North Carolina game, or injuries that end up lingering for a whole season. But I am with you on the wide receivers, Patrick, just because I last year defended Shi Smith. I was the one saying, no, guys, I think Shi Smith does have the production in his past to step up. You guys were kind of against me on that. This year, I'm totally with you. There isn't that guy back there. But I do think DeCarrion Joyner through fall camp is going to be the guy that they look to, that Justin Stepp leans on as his number one guy. Now, whether DeCarrion Joyner can live up to that or not, I don't know. There is a lot of people in that room, and maybe someone progresses more. Amarion Brown is the guy who at least has college production. That's another guy. You look at, again, college production alone.
Speaking of production, too, you know how many career catches Joyner has? Career catches. You want to take a ballpark?
10. I'd say the over-under is 15.
Yeah, he's got 13. Okay. He had 7 last year for 55 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be.
Yeah, so when you say lean on as to be the number one guy, I mean, there's a decent chance that the number one wide receiver will be the third option in the receiving game based on what we've heard about Jaheim Bell.
Lean on means in his wide receiver room.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Justin Stepp's not the offensive coordinator. I agree with you. I think that you guys would agree right now as they start practice here in 2 hours, 9 hours and 20 minutes. And as far as I can tell, for those of you wondering, there will be no media availability today. As I'm looking at it, it says first practice 9:40 a.m. So 2 hours and 15 minutes. Open to media for stretch and first 5 periods, but it has no media availability afterwards, I believe, which makes sense. They all spoke yesterday. It looks like the first media availability will be Monday morning, offensive players post-practice media.
Yeah, I'm thinking what you'll get here, Bill, is a statement put out by USC to recap the practice and a quote from Shane Beamer, and that'll be that.
Yeah, and again, these first 2 days, it's strictly helmet, and I'm sure this is where Shane Beamer would have liked to maybe done them, or at least done tonight in the stadium to bring fans in, because there's not a whole lot you can learn tonight. Tim, I think you probably had to go and shoot, or maybe you weren't. Maybe you might have been out in Texas during the Spurrier era when he would have his opening night practice and everybody go out there and everybody's all fired up. But you get out there and you start just standing around and watching basically, special teams drills and, one-on-ones with wide receivers and defensive backs. After about 15 minutes, you're like, oh, okay, well, not a whole lot going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But it does give the players a chance to interact with the fans just in terms of being out there and some cheers and whatnot. So back to the wide receivers, though, guys, I mean, are we in agreement that at least as of today, as practice starts, the number one pass-catching option across the board is Nick Muse?
Oh, no doubt. Not even close. For sure.
Okay.
And then you'd have to go I would go Kevin Harris next at running back, and then behind him maybe a guy who we haven't even seen play a lick yet in Marshawn Lloyd, just knowing how highly he recruited he was and how he impressed teammates early on. And speaking of Lloyd, wanted to let you hear a little bit from him. The guy who, again, you can't win championships in preseason practice, but you can certainly have things happen to your program that make you feel like you're already starting the season behind the 8 ball. That happened last year. What was it, practice number 2? That Lloyd goes down, maybe practice number 3, and tore his ACL. And the highly recruited running back out of DeMatha, Maryland, and the state of Delaware, there's where he's originally from, never got to get on the field. And I think it's really interesting how he was speaking yesterday. Wanted to let you hear some of that right now from Marshawn Lloyd. It's part of what he had to say. We'll let you hear more extended comments when we come back as well. Again, the talented freshman running back who has yet to get on the field in a Carolina uniform was asked if there was one word he could describe himself or main characteristic. He went with electric, and then he knows that not a lot of people are counting on Gamecock football to win a lot of games, and he's ready to change that narrative real quick.
We're not talking about a lot, when they make these different ratings, we don't pay attention to it because we know deep inside that we're and that's for sure. We've been, we keep that inside because we don't really care about, other running backs. We just want to pretty much show the world what we can do. And that's what we do, definitely. When this basketball coach
Bill mentioned it a little earlier. We're talking about the 1-year-old at my house, and yesterday continued to be his deal these days when we're eating is when he's done, he just starts throwing food. And then it is an absolute wreck on our floors. Makes me appreciate the pros from Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning and the job they've done at my house. A couple of times they've been out to my house and given us great results, cleaning our carpets. They cleaned an area rug for us in our living room, also the tiles in the kitchen and the bathroom. And it's not just that Zero Res gave us those great professional looking results, really refreshed our house, gave it the nice, fresh, new home feel and smell and look, but it's also how they do it. Zero Res does it differently than anybody else. They have a patented powered water cleaning system, no harsh chemicals involved in that process. That's especially important to me and my family. Also, no leftover soapy residue to attract dirt back into the carpet soon. That's why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well. And they can do it even better if you don't have a 1-year-old throwing food around all the time. That's my issue, not yours. I'll let that go right now and get back to the point of telling you about Zero Res's great summer sale. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119 plus free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, ZeroResColumbia.com is the website. Go book your appointment right now or give them a call. 803-262-4020. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Just completely bailed on us, didn't it? Halfway through. I think I'm going to agree with you, DC, at this point. From the video that the limited video that was out in spring football from Gamecock Athletics and what we heard, I'm going to go with you on Ortre Smith.
I'll be interested. Ortre, I mean, I think it's a very
I'm going to look up his stats as well since we looked up Carry-On Jr.
I think he's got 30. He had 30 catches his freshman year, and he might have had 2 or 3 before he got hurt his sophomore year, and that would be it.
Opted out last year, so a huge question mark in so many ways. And then the knee thing, the knee thing too, because it wasn't a typical knee issue that we've seen before. It was one of those like genetic deals, is how it was described, I think, and it clearly had a massive impact on him at the time. I want to take him for his word and that he's 100% in the whole thing, but I guess when you're dealing with something like that, it can feel 100% and yet not. You can still maybe lack some of the explosiveness that you used to have. It's the only way I explain what we've seen. Because as a freshman, man, he was on pace. He was going to be the next guy, and there was very little doubt about it. I want to look up his freshman stats compared to Alshon's.
Was Alshon the guy as a freshman?
Took him 6 games before he did a dang thing.
Okay.
Ortre
Who
or
was the number 1 receiver?
Who was the number 1 guy his freshman year? Bill, do you remember? Was it McKinley?
Alshon?
Uh-huh.
I don't think they necessarily had a number 1 guy. That was part of the problem.
Who were the other receivers?
Look for you.
You might be right on McKinley, though, because is that 09, I think?
He ended up with 49 catches, 762 yards, and 8 touchdowns as a freshman. Pretty dang good.
Mo Brown was the number 1 guy, or would have been Mo Brown was next.
Those numbers are not right, by the way.
What?
I gave you his junior numbers.
Alshon?
Yeah.
No, 46 catches.
Right. I gave you 49, which was his 2011. So you're going back to, is this 09?
Yeah, give me a minute. I'll have everything right here in front of me. Let's see. 2009, 46 catches, 763 yards, 6 touchdowns.
And then, do you have it game by game in front of you?
I think I can get it. Hold on.
I know it was a Kentucky game. I think it was game number 6 of the season, and I think he might have had 3 touchdowns in the game, or at least that.
Yeah, he caught a long pass. Let's see here. So
that was
against Kentucky. The 4th game. It was the 4th game of the year. 4th game against Kentucky. South Carolina won 28-26. I thought it was more of a blowout. Against Kentucky, he had 7 catches, 138 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
So, Jen, let's do I'll set it up here, number 12. Quick reminder, 3 weeks from today, going to be out at Charwood Golf Club for our 107.5 The Game golf tournament, celebrating 14 years on the air. Love to see you out there on Friday, August 27th, 10 a.m. tee-off time, captain's choice, four-man teams. Going to give away a trip to Kiowa for that winning team, raise some money for Camp Cole, Panera breakfast, Little Pigs lunch, raffle off a pair of tickets for the Gamecock football opener against Eastern Illinois. That'll be 8 days from then. Again, 3 weeks from today is when we're having our 14th anniversary golf tournament out at Charwood. Just give those guys a call to register at 803-755-2000. That's 755-2000 if you want to play with us on August 27th out at Charwood Golf Club, our 14th anniversary golf tournament presented by Integrated Media. Wanted to let you hear now a little bit more from Marshawn Lloyd, the talented freshman running back who didn't get to play last year because of an ACL injury, was asked by the great John Whittle from the Big Spur if there is one main characteristic that he would like to let Gamecock fans know about his style of play, what would that one characteristic be?
Out of college, like here, the major things I want to show them that I was coming out of high school, I was highly recruited, and I want to show the fans that it was a reason why I was so high.
Again, Marshawn Lloyd, running back who has yet to play a down in a Gamecock uniform. Also wanted to let you hear how he's approaching name, image, and likeness. And I thought this was really interesting, and maybe this was part of the earlier part of his comments yesterday, and how I came to respect his approach and just where he's coming from instantly when he was asked about how he's approaching name, image, and likeness to this point.
I got a couple of things, but I'm not worried about that right now. I've never really pursued it yet. I want to play before I get anything. I can actually, make him money here more, but I want to play before I do anything. I want to, show the state of South Carolina, show the world what I'm capable of doing. So if I do anything or do anything, I'm going to play. I want to play before I receive or do anything.
Again, Marshawn Lloyd, the running back. Bill, when you hear that, when you hear the electric comment, what do you make of Marshawn Lloyd's comments and then his prospects for getting on the field and being a productive player for Carolina this year?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about what do I think about the name, image, likeness stuff, or just about his comments? Because I thought that was kind of interesting, just about getting on the field, wanting to do something before he signs anything. It's a new approach. Okay, I guess.
Well, maybe he just means I'm not going to take some tiny little offer for whatever for a social media post. If I just go out there and ball out, then people will know my name and I can get an actually big offer.
And what do you mean it's a new approach? All this is new.
Well, I'm just saying, Patrick, it's not like he's limited on how many he can take. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't know if maybe someone's wanting him to do, go out of his way and do a lot of work for pennies on the dollar when he thinks, well, let me just wait. I'm confident if I score 3 touchdowns in my debut, then I'll get one of those Bojangles offers and I'll be good. Yeah, that's all I need.
But Bill, if you do that with your teammate Kevin Harris, then you have basically limited yourself for a competitor coming in a little bit later after you've run for whatever many yards in the opener or something like that.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of different ways to handle it. What's more interesting, I think, for everybody right now is where I think you were initially going with it about him being on the field and playing. And, man, obviously a high 4, low 5-star recruit, depending on which service you look at. When he came to South Carolina, there was so much buzz about him last year and what he could do and how he was going to carry the offense and be the starter from day one. And, unfortunately gets injured and carries on. It's weird to see a guy. I mean, there was a lot of buzz about Ryan Helinski, and we were able to see him by the second game, unfortunately because of an injury to Jake Bentley. But you got to see Ryan Helinski right off the bat. Think about other, Tim, in our time, Patrick, you've been around for a few years, other highly thought of recruits that have come in that you've had to kind of wait and see. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Steven Garcia redshirted. I mean, Garcia, just the height. Certainly, there have been other big-time guys. Lattimore, we saw right off the bat. But I think Garcia was a guy that the last one I can remember that came in with so much hype and excitement, and you had to wait a year to see him. Does that seem right to you guys?
Yeah, but I think the more direct comparison for Marshawn Lloyd is running backs, right? Quarterback is a different animal. Running backs.
No, I'm just talking about when a guy comes in with all the hype and everything behind him. Jordan Birch, I don't know if anybody, I think people maybe remember Jordan Birch running over the poor kid from Vanderbilt last year on the kickoff.
Right.
But I don't know if anybody necessarily remembers Jordan Birch making a bunch of big plays, but he did play. I guess I'm just using it as a big-time recruit or somebody that people really followed in recruiting, got excited about, that then you didn't get to see play a couple snaps right off the bat.
Well, he would have easily been this time last year the number one thing that people were most excited about.
Agreed.
Right.
Seeing Marshawn Lloyd play. And now that we've had another year and Kevin Harris has played really well, that excitement level has dropped off substantially. Not that people aren't still excited to see him, but they're like, well, we got a guy, so who really knows? Who knows how much he's even going to play? And that's just what happens when you're there for a year. And
that's why I was curious with Kevin Harris. I was thinking with the Kevin Harris injury, or if it is an injury, whatever it is, if he somehow, if Beamer's giving us the Muschamp treatment and he's actually way more hurt than we expected and is going to miss time, like how far down that list is Kevin Harris of guys you can least afford to lose? Because you're so deep at that spot. You feel really good 4 deep, but people are so excited to see Marshawn Lloyd. Like if Kevin Harris couldn't go, would people say this is a nightmare situation, or do we still have the same energy about Marshawn Lloyd as we did last year?
All right, let me address some of that. Wait a second, Bill. There are people just getting in their car and they're hearing this for the first time. Let me address the wild speculation first of all about what Shane Beamer said specifically about Kevin Harris. He said that he had a minor back procedure and has been trying to convince the trainer, Clint Haggard, to let him go 100% in practice and fully expects him to be back very soon. Let me put that out there right now, just in case somebody's hearing this for the first time. Yeah, Bill, I think, put it very accurately. When's the last time you heard of a minor back procedure? I get it.
It's backs and necks, right? But no matter what it is, you hear that part of it and you don't feel good about it. I hear what you're saying, but I think you undersold how much Gamecock fans still really are excited about Marshawn Lloyd to begin with, even though it's the second year he's coming off injury and the whole thing. And
because of the depth at the position, that Kevin Harris scenario that you pointed out, and because he was really, really good last year, but it wasn't necessarily a difference maker in winning football games, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I think that's why it wouldn't be a massive panic situation if that were the case that you brought up. Bill, where are you on that?
Yeah, I think, and I know it's a spring game, and spring games can be fool's gold, but even the ways that Quandre White ran in the spring game, I think people look at that and say, look, Kevin Harris was fantastic last year, but we've got guys behind him. Marshawn Lloyd's supposed to be something really special, and if Kevin Harris can't go, or if he, let's just say hypothetically that this thing lingers and that he misses the first 2 or 3 games, I think we all expect Kevin Harris back at some point, whether it's next week, whether it's for the Eastern Illinois game, whether it's the Georgia game on September 18th. I don't take what Shane Beamer said yesterday as he's out for the season. I'll be honest, against Eastern Illinois, how many even carries do you think Kevin Harris gets? I'd venture a guess that Marshawn Lloyd, because it's his first game, actually gets more than Kevin Harris, because you're going to rest Kevin Harris to take those hits later in the season when you need him. Look, they may very well need him a lot more in the East Carolina game. So, we'll see. I think this is the first true test, though. It's funny. I'm laughing. The first true test for Shane Beamer. Like you've told us, he basically could be cleared. He's ready to go. The way Shane Beamer said it yesterday is Kevin Harris feels fine.
Right.
Kevin Harris himself is ready to practice today, and it's just the trainers taking precautions with him and saying, all right, just slow down a little bit. Let's make sure you're 100%.
Interesting to hear Marshawn Lloyd talk about Kevin Harris, a guy publicly very quiet and very limited in his comments. Says actually he's really funny, and he's a goofy guy, and he just hasn't really opened up about it. But it's really interesting to hear his take, because Marshawn Lloyd seems to have the opposite personality and kind of welcoming the spotlight, and that's why I wanted to get into more of the past Gamecock running back big time, highly touted running back recruits. And that comparison, like Craig says, when did Demetrius Summers get on the field? Well, it seemed like he clearly had a deal with Lou Holtz for the first play of the season to get a run, get the carry. The ball would go to him, and that's what happened immediately his true freshman season. And a ton of production didn't follow, but he was a focal point of the offense. And before him, it was Derek Watson, who broke 100 yards in his very first game as a Gamecock running back in that Hurricane game up at NC State, where Lou Holtz made his debut as well. To me, those are more the direct comparisons to Marshawn Lloyd than thinking about other big-time players like Alshon Jeffrey, we've been talking about from the receiver standpoint, or Steven Garcia, and how long it took them to have an impact on the Gamecock offense. We'll continue to discuss as we roll on this morning. Love to hear from you. 803-404-6100 is the number. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game. The game is on. Everywhere.
Right now, sitting in my garage in a folding chair, not the most comfortable, but that's probably a good thing. You guys don't want me comfortable eating my breakfast and then maybe nodding off here on the morning show. That I find that productive at this point. What I also know would be productive for you is if you get out to Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. Daniel's is out near the airport. The back of the airport, you can find them at 3911 Edmond Highway. 3911 Edmond Highway is the address in West Columbia for Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. And what you need to do when you go there is go straight to the leather gallery. It's right on the right of the store. You'll see the hardwood floor and the more than 50 recliners they've got set up over there. And go try them all out and see which one fits you the best, feels the best. And then guess what? If you live within 20 miles of Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding there out of the airport, free delivery. You can buy it right off the floor. That's how Daniel and June Clark have been doing it for the last 25 years here in the Midlands. And that's how they certainly will treat you as part of the family, not another number or faceless, nameless customer. They want you to get what you need, not just this time you go to Daniel's, but for years to come. Be part of their family. That's how they're going to treat you, like family. And they're known for their 3 Bs, the best furniture, the best service, and the best price. And that motion furniture, that's their specialty. That's the recliners or the reclining sofas and love seats. And again, that leather gallery is especially where you need to check out as well. That's Daniel's Fine Furniture out of the back of the airport, 3911. Edmond Highway is the address. When it's time to save, remember, it's time for Daniel's Fine Furniture.
Bill, you watching the wrestling?
It's on commercial right now.
Did you see what just happened?
No, I must not be watching the same thing you are then.
You didn't just see the American dude?
No.
What? The 125 kilograms, 275 pounds, the American guy was getting beaten by a Georgian the entire time. With 15 seconds left, he was down.
Oh, wait. Now they're showing it. You got 2 points.
He scored 4 points in the last 15 seconds, including a takedown at the buzzer to win the gold medal.
Wow.
Is that a takedown? All he did was get behind him, and then he celebrated like he about kicked his trainer or whatever in the face.
Morning, Hope.
Yeah, he was down by 2 points with 15 seconds left. It looked like it was over.
Yeah, they just showed it now. Stevenson.
Gable Stevenson.
Oh,
that's not a real name. Get out of here.
It is. He's a gopher.
Yeah, that's right. That was one of the guys they were talking about actually being able to profit off of name, image, likeness more so than some because of. So is that a takedown? He just got around behind him and put him in a lock. I thought he was going to slam him or something.
So we ran out of time. He was losing the entire time.
Yeah, when it started, it showed me.
There's a kid from my area going for the gold medal at 7:20 tomorrow morning in wrestling.
the wind just picked up.
Did you watch any of the women's diving last night?
I haven't seen any diving.
Oh my gosh. The one girl from China who looks like she's 6, but she's 14, where she gets up there on, the high platform and does a handstand and then does her dive. It's like, really? And executes it. I mean, she got like all 10s. It was insane.
Would you guys jump off the high board into a
Nope.
pool?
Oh, no.
Nope. 33 feet.
No. I don't even want to have to go up the ladder. Like, no.
Yeah, it would have to be a significant monetary motivation for
What's significant? $500 you jump off?
Oh, no. No.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely do it for $500. Significant in my life is much less than $500.
Yeah, I mean, I would do it for
200. Probably be my number.
I don't like heights, but I'd definitely do it for $100.
Mm-mm. No, I'd
Yeah, maybe 100.
I would
Again,
just keep my body straight up.
Right.
I would try to, yeah.
Pencil it. As long as you can go in feet first, I'm in. Head first, that'd have to be at least 4 digits.
Yeah.
Yes.
4 digits. Well, at our age, yeah.
You
As
can
I'm
get
learning
seriously
this
hurt.
baseball camp, it's a lot easier to get injured at our age than it is 15 years ago.
Well,
Yeah,
and
but 33 feet, it's easy for anyone to get injured if you just land slightly wrong.
Right.
That's the thing. And and you see the wrist braces on the divers, so you have to imagine the impact, like what the impact is hitting the water. So they must have an issue with like wrists getting all,
Yeah.
messed up or something because of that impact.
What is the worst case scenario? Hitting like the back of your head first and like pushing it forward, like the neck?
I would think you get a little bit, you slide a little bit too much in your back. And I don't mean like landing on your back, but I mean like almost hitting the lower part of your back because your feet got a little bit tilted over your head. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, what would happen if you tried to belly flop from 33 feet?
Oh,
It would hurt so bad, but like, what?
How dare you?
What kind of damage would it do?
What is wrong with you?
What kind of damage would it, legitimate damage would it do, like in the long term?
It would be
significant bruising.
Red diving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be instant explosion. That's what happened with my mush body. Like a tomato.
Belly flop is probably like, how old am I? 25? Probably 10 years.
Jen, I want to do the last beamer right here. I think it was the last beamer. Yeah, number 5.
Okay.
Straight on.
We're back.
I mean, I'm going to be locked in, but I'm going to have a whole heck of a lot of fun down there as well. Hopefully, with the way that we're playing and the effort that we're playing with, and the way that we represent this great university and great program, and I'll be really happy out there playing with the effort that makes our fan base, proud to be Gamecocks.
Beamer, yesterday's media day, asked about his sideline demeanor and what he anticipates, how he anticipates acting there. I get it that he's never been a head coach. He's been the interim head coach, I guess, for the Military Bowl for Virginia Tech back in the day. But just hearing that, I think, is just a nice breath of fresh air for those of us who love college football. And did you guys ever think for a second that Will Muschamp was having much fun on the sideline in his tenure at South Carolina, even when Carolina was winning, man? That's just not his personality, I feel like. I know he did some fist pumping every now and again. They would celebrate, but it's not a head coach's job just to have fun. First of all, let me be very clear about that. But just Muschamp's personality seemed to be polar opposite from what we just heard there from Shane Beamer. Bill, is that just me? Am I overhyping it?
No, you're not wrong. His personality is yeah. I mean, it's a complete 180. But I think Muschamp had fun when they were winning. I think he was miserable when they were losing. I think there was no middle ground.
But Bill, when you heard him say, he almost slipped up, I feel like, and led us into some honest conversation one time on the podium saying, actually, my assistant's going to try to keep me away from our players before a game because I'm really going over some stuff. And like, that's not welcoming the moment and having fun. That is over analytical and so worried and like a ball of nervous energy as opposed to excited nervous energy.
No, I think it can be both, but that's also pregame. I mean, Steve Spurrier was laying out poolside in Florida prior to the game. Like, I mean, and then in the game, you'd see him throwing visors and headsets and any backup quarterbacks that were standing next to him. There's a middle ground. I think, again, go back to when South Carolina beat Missouri in that downpour, and he's Muschamps out there fist pumping. I think he had fun. You got to win more games to have fun. You got to win more games. It's tough to be beaten 48-3 by Texas A&M and have fun.
No doubt. If Shane Beamer's having fun on the sideline and the Gamecocks are losing, there'll be a lot of upset Gamecocks for sure. But just to hear a coach say he's looking forward to having fun on the sideline is a nice breath of fresh air to my ear anyway. We'll see how your ear will deal with us in hour number 3. It's coming up here. It's the early game on 107.5 PM.
This is Gamecock basketball head coach Frank Martin, and you're listening to 107.
Oh, it definitely is the most relevant comparison. No doubt about it. From a personality standpoint. I don't know. I would be surprised, though, if we see Beamer get after a guy like Dabo has gotten after a few of his guys, though, wouldn't you?
No, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's part of kind of the interesting viewing of the season is how exactly Shane Beamer handles being just the sideline demeanor.
Need to talk to his kids. How does he handle disciplining his kids? That might give you some insight.
And it took a few years for that. Was the ACC championship game with the punter is the one that really sticks out to me, where he really got after the guy and chased him to the bench and the whole thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it would take that amount of success as well and that specific situation for it to come out. But
I mean,
it would be interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like what happens the first time a guy gets a 15-yard, late hit penalty or does something. It'll happen. Something really a taunting penalty or something. How does he exactly handle that? Then is he Lou Holtz where he's grabbing face masks or?
Well, and if he's not the disciplinarian, he's not the bad cop on the sideline. Who is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you got to have one for sure.
Jen, is it raining down there on Gervais Street?
No, sir. Is it raining there?
No, but as I look, get out of the way here. As you look, you see the sun coming up.
Right.
But you're basically right in that direction.
I'm glowing like the
I can
sun.
see how dark it is. And man, the wind just kicked up here real bad. The boats are rocking like crazy. I don't know if you can. Doesn't really do it justice.
Yeah, no, you can see the trees moving.
Yeah, the wind just kicked up, and it's blowing in toward me, but out toward you can down here. You can see. I think this is how media people actually do it. You can see this area right here.
Right, exactly.
Is dark and it looks hazy down there.
No, it's overcast for sure.
Is it? Can you see that flag? I don't think you can't. There's a flag right here blowing right in toward me. So everything's the worst thing when the wind blows in northeast from that direction from the dam is when the boats get real bad.
Mm-hmm.
I can see mine out there bouncing around pretty good. It doesn't bounce like some of these pontoons though. I've got mine tied down pretty good. I've still got the cover on it.
So I laughed at RL saying that he's going to need to be able to raise his voice in displeasure. Guys, football coaches, don't believe the podium persona, man. He couldn't raise his voice in displeasure. It was a big problem. And yeah, Greg Atkins definitely can be the bad cop, I'm sure. I mean, he doesn't have that real personality, though. I feel like when I hear that, I think of Brad Lawing immediately for some reason, or Tracy Rocker, like the really serious, stern disciplinarian type personality. Well, and Brad Lawing can tell some great stories in the whole thing, don't get me wrong, but that's who I think of as kind of bad cop personality. coaches. And Greg Atkins doesn't have that necessarily, but I'm sure he has that side to him for sure. Spurs was the all-time.
Oh, we had brought up Jason Garrett. Y'all see what Jason Garrett did yesterday?
Yep. Took a page out of Dion's book.
Yeah, he did.
That he had to be addressed as coach?
Yeah.
Really?
He said he was wrapping up his press conference and said, "Thanks, guys." Nobody responded, and he said, "Thanks, guys." And they said, "Thanks, Jason." And he said, "Around here we say thank you, coach." And they said, "Thank you, Jason."
Nice.
Who are you, Jason Garrett? Nobody respects you. I'm watching. You guys ever heard of death diving?
I thought I did watch that last night.
It's a Norwegian belly flopping contest.
Oh, what is up with these people? Like,
look at these guys. I guess we'll focus on.
Is this an Olympic thing?
No, it's very amateur.
Oh.
It's a belly flopping contest.
Is it on ESPN too? Oh, good Lord! Why would you do that?
But like,
That's all it is.
who
He
decided
did a
that was a good
backflip.
idea?
In his defense, that dude did a backflip and executed. I feel like he's had to practice that.
Oh yeah, of course they do. A lot of them
just looked up. Yeah, that affected all of my internal organs.
Yeah,
just
like
But they're all. Everyone I've seen so far has, before they've hit the water, put their arms and legs out.
yeah.
I need people going spready, like
Yeah, that would
belly
hurt.
first. That's a belly flop. I think.
I don't know if a man can. I mean, I feel like you're running a high risk there.
Dude, just from a instinct perspective, I would think your body just does that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
you'd
very
have to be
difficult.
seriously hammered, I think, to not
To me, that's
react that way.
the prep.
All right, have y'all paid attention? So I guess nobody's noticed it, or they didn't promote it this year. ESPN2 has gone full-on ESPN Ocho this week.
Didn't even
'Cause
know.
I thought that's what you were watching this in right now on ESPN2. They have the thing ESPN8, the Ocho. It's a Minecraft tournament.
All right, that's ridiculous.
And
I'm not watching that. I'm just watching. I typed in high dive fails on YouTube.
Oh, good Lord.
One of them says is like advertising like an actual death. I'm not going to watch that one.
Wednesday night they had on ESPN2 the cherry pit spitting contest from Eugene, Michigan.
Fascinating.
There was some interesting people in that thing.
That's followed by the paint drying watching contest.
Oh, there was a couple winners in that group. Patrick, on Big Ten Network, you've got Maryland and Texas from 2018.
Oh, nice. I watched that one at a Wild Wing Cafe in Charlotte.
Yeah, 2018. So whatever the Redskins stadium is called.
Let's head into the intro.
FedEx.
Did you see where the Redskins or the Washington where they banned you can't wear face paint or
headdresses? Yeah.
That's stupid.
Jen, can we do number 3 straight in here, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I like how Hope was just not even going to allow us to go into the Beamer Dabo comparison. She could go on for just turn her loose like Gamecock Larry on the Dabo Beamer thing. She just go on her own rant.
Wife and our 3 children went down to Kiowa for about 2 or 3 days here at the beginning of the week. Had a fantastic time as a family. We were out riding bikes on the beach a couple of days ago, and my son, who turned 8 last weekend, he was riding alongside of me. He pulled up. He said, "Man, Daddy, I'm so excited about football season starting. I'm so excited for the Gamecocks." On and on and on. I was like, "Man, me too, man. I'm so excited. Can't believe it's here. Got a fun team. Can't wait to start practice." And then it kind of got quiet. And then he looked at me and he said, "Just try not to get fired this year." And true story. I wish that was a joke. So he's 8.
And the honeymoon phase is clearly over in my house. So I know Emil's outside this building. He's a competitor, and he's ready to get going just like we all are.
Shane Beamer and Gamecock football officially kicking off preseason practice number 1 an hour and 35 minutes from now. And the honeymoon period, interesting story there that he relayed. Bill, do you think it's really over? Do you think it's going to last a little bit longer? Where are Gamecock fans going to be with Shane Beamer rolling into 2021?
It's, I mean, again, my personal opinion is South Carolina wins
a game that they should still win. I know you don't take anybody for granted, but South Carolina just, if you look at the recruiting rankings the last few years, I know that this year's was not good, but under Muschamp, it was where it typically was under Spurrier, and South Carolina's got some good players. So when does the honeymoon period end, you ask? I'll say if they get just demolished by Georgia, let's say Georgia beats them 38-3, or just Kirby Smart just sticks it to them, and South Carolina fans remember how far they have to go to match Georgia. If South Carolina is semi-competitive in that one, then it happens at the Kentucky game. If they don't win the Kentucky game at home, I don't know why it has been this way for the last 7 or 8 years, but the last 7 or 8 years, I believe it feels like South Carolina plays Kentucky at night, and they play Florida at noon. That just seems to be the way the schedule's set up. So you feel like it's probably going to be a night game, and South Carolina fans, regardless of the fact that Kentucky has been a more stable program for the last 5 years and has been better coached and has some good players, South Carolina fans are going to expect to beat Kentucky. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Always. Okay.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That
I will
would
always
be the
agree
game.
with that.
In those 2 weeks, the 18th and the 25th, I feel like is where you could see the true honeymoon period come to an end with either a bad loss or you lose to Kentucky and now you got to go to the podium and explain that one.
What if you beat East Carolina on a last second field goal and you don't feel good heading into the Georgia game?
It'd be interesting. I think
or you're down by down at halftime to East Carolina.
I think
and have to come back.
It'll be my personal opinion is it will be how Shane Beamer addresses the performance after the game. If he comes out and says, everything's good and we're just trying to get it, in that scenario, they let's say they kick a field goal at the end to win by 1. How he addresses the media. If he comes out and he not throws players under the bus, but kind of takes the Spurrier approach of, hey, we didn't coach good. We got, I don't know. It will be how he handles. There's going to be a moment this year where we're going to learn a lot about how he handles adversity as a head football coach. Handling adversity as a head football coach. Tim, we've seen, and Patrick, you've seen a little bit of it. We've seen Steve Spurrier now, and you've seen Will Muschamp. And I think the biggest criticism of Will Muschamp was the way he would handle some losses and go in and just basically, Patrick, as you pointed out, Muschamp would go in there and say, hey, game plan was perfect. If we'd have fit the run gaps, if we'd have done it, our game plan, my game plan was great. And now we got to go back and look at the tape and see where the players screwed it up, essentially. Maybe somebody remembers a specific instance where Muschamp basically went in and took the blame and said, yeah, it was my fault. I coached poorly. But
I don't think specifically he did that, but I do think that he would always start out by saying, we got outplayed, got outcoached. And then he'd go into why the game plan was still exactly right and the run fits were the ones that were incorrect.
So all I'm saying is there's going to be a period where addressing the media, addressing your fan base through the media, and Spurrier was pretty good at that. Again, winning helps, right? Winning is the part that if you win a lot, you have fun coaching, it's a lot easier to address the media. So we'll see. But my guess is that because I think South Carolina does start 2-0. I think it would be an extreme disappointment if they're not 2-0 going to Georgia. Personally, I would think South Carolina starts 2-0, but then gets beaten pretty soundly in Athens, maybe 38-10, 41-10. I don't know, something like that. But then I think they bounce back the next week, and that Kentucky game will be kind of the first real sign to me, of the Shane Beamer era. I think there is something to South Carolina going on the road to East Carolina. That stadium is going to be packed. Those fans are going to have that game circled. Mike Houston has some knowledge of the South Carolina program, obviously from his time at the Citadel. But I think that Kentucky game, Tim, was the one that I kind of circle as, all right, where are we at here with this honeymoon period?
I don't quite agree with that one, but I'm not going to go as far as Scott either. Scott hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, says Beamer's going to get a pass this year, even if they only win 2 games. Absolutely not. And it's a disastrous first year, and not all the blame will go to Will Muschamp and the previous coaching staff. We've seen this already, right? I think I saw this with Gamecock football at the end of the Spurrier era, where things fell off and it got really ugly in that last season, and then Will Muschamp took over. I thought Gamecock football fans did an excellent job in their expectations for Will Muschamp and being patient in the 21st century, knowing what SEC head coaches get paid, being patient with his process and respecting the situation he took over, knowing that it was a disastrous year and a disastrous end of the Steve Spurrier era. I think Gamecock football fans are going to be respectful of Shane Beamer taking over a program that's 8 games each of its last 2 seasons. But what you said, Bill, it is more of a competitiveness thing as opposed to simply results. Because, Patrick, you're right. You got to come back and beat East Carolina by a point. That win is a lot different than a 28-point win in game number 2 on the road, where you're completely physically more dominant than the other team. Bill, to your point about handling adversity, I don't know how much Shane Beamer has to prove there to me. I think Shane Beamer has already proven to us from a public messaging standpoint, from a media savvy standpoint, he's me. He can handle being in that chair and being amongst the big boys. I mean, he's a 21-year veteran in major college football as an assistant coach. I know it's different when you're a head coach, but just knowing his personality, hearing him speak through the years, I feel confident that he's going to be able to handle it pretty well publicly, and a lot better than the last dude who was the game. So Bill, let me finish real quick. So to me, this honeymoon period it extends a little bit past the Kentucky game. It's a 3-game deal evaluation from my standpoint with Gamecock football fans. It's Tennessee, Missouri, and Kentucky. You got to be ultra competitive in all 3 of those games and win one of them, and then I think the honeymoon period extends a little bit more. If you don't do that, then I think it ends real quick for Shane Beamer and Gamecock fans. That leash gets a lot shorter, and the patience wears thin a lot easier if you don't get competition with those teams that I think Gamecock football fans feel they're very close, if not even with, and then you got to pull out a win in one of those 3 games at least.
I do think this from a media fan perception standpoint, and this was the point. This is something that, Tim, you and I talked about for the last 5 years that we couldn't understand. Allowing your coordinators to speak after games and explain what they were doing. Kind of, I don't want to say putting them on the spot, but basically them explaining what the game plan was or where the mistakes was, and not just hearing it from the head coach, I do think helped Shane Beamer tremendously. I will never understand why Will Muschamp wouldn't let grown men, Kurt Roper, Brian McClendon, anybody come in and talk.
Making $1 million.
Yeah, making $1 million. But yet you would send your starting quarterback out to talk about it. I will never. I mean, we can talk about all the things that happened in the Will Muschamp era. That is one of the most baffling things to me. Why you make an 18 to 22-year-old kid explain what happened, but not the guy, as you just pointed out, Patrick, making $1 million, who's a grown man who's in charge of coordinating the offense or the defense. And I know Muschamp certainly had his hand on the defense, so that made a lot more sense for him to hear from him. But to not allow your offensive coordinator to do it, I never understood that.
Especially a kid who was already controversial to South Carolina fans, and he went in there, and say what you want about Jake Bentley, but he always shouldered the blame every single game. He always said, yeah, I should have done better. He was a very professional in that way. So just, letting a child just take bullets for you.
Easy on the child. Come on.
Well, but no, yeah, I mean again, Tim,
compared to
Tim, I don't know where you were I don't know if you were in Texas or if you were back here in Columbia in that great press conference, and I think it was 2016, where Spurrier doesn't feel like answering the question about the defensive backs at Kentucky, so he sends someone to fetch Ron Cooper out of the shower.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Cooper is brought into the press conference. Cooper doesn't know what. Patrick, have you ever seen this before?
No, I have no idea
what we're referencing.
It was amazing.
No, not a clue.
That's a great question. Let's get Coop out here. Let's get him out here.
South Carolina almost gives up. Yeah, South Carolina almost gives up a Hail Mary at the end of the game to Kentucky, and South Carolina holds on to win 24-17. Spurrier was all fired up because he called a trick play with Savell Newton and Corey Boyd that put South Carolina up. You know what I'm talking about? The reverse throwback.
Oh, yeah, I know that. I was thinking it wasn't quite the same game, but you're positive that was the same game? You got memory on this thing.
Yeah, he calls him. He goes a night game up there, and I was up there for the game. And so anyway, he calls the trick play. Everybody celebrates. And it looks like South Carolina's going to win easy. And Kentucky ends up having a Hail Mary at the end of the game that almost gets called. Spurrier doesn't feel like explaining it. Or he's so upset he doesn't want to explain it. So he sends somebody to fetch the defensive backs coach, not the defensive coordinator, the defensive backs coach, Ron Cooper, out of the shower, bring him to the press conference room, and poor Ron Cooper is standing there trying to adjust his tie, doesn't know why he's been brought to the press conference room.
Oh, he knows. No, he knows. He just is massively uncomfortable. If you've never been a fan or looked into body language, that is a great example. It's hands in the pocket, and all you hear is like keys just jingling as he's in there. Just
how do I find video of this?
The same question over and over. My buddy Scott Eisberg I was working with at ABC Columbia. He definitely he got it somewhere in the archives. The video doesn't do it justice. It's the situation and how unique it was. But Bill, I think your point is, and this is part of the reason that Will Muschamp never succeeded as a head coach. Having the awareness that fans need a scapegoat after a loss. SEC fans, college football fans, rabid college football fans are going to be irrationally, emotionally upset after losing a game, no matter what. And they need somewhere to channel that energy. And guess what? Your coordinators, just by default, by their title, and by what you mentioned, Patrick, by how much money they're making, they are going to get some of that blame, no matter if they called a perfect game or not. And guess what? They deserve it. If you make 7 figures, anywhere close to that right now, you deserve it. If your job is winning games, your team doesn't win, and you're in charge of a unit on the offense or defense side of the ball, you deserve it. I think coaches know that. So to not have the awareness to at least put their face in front of a camera to allow fans to listen to that coach react as well to the same loss that they just lived through, that they went blood, sweat, and tears in, that they feel so upset about, is just mind-boggling. Like you said, it just shows me the lack of it's emotional awareness, or I don't know what it is, social awareness. It's just a complete disconnect. Just because Nick Saban's gotten away with doing it doesn't mean that you can, and that never quite got to Will Muschamp in his era. So the fact that you're going to get a weekly press conference now from Clayton White and Marcus Satterfield, and again, they're not going to explain it perfectly after every loss, and Gamecock fans aren't going to be happy with them when the team loses. But guess what? They can put some blame over there. They can at least listen to an explanation and maybe understand the thought process and exactly what broke down, and then feel okay about the way that it was approached, or maybe feel completely opposite and think that guy's got to go and start blaming him, as opposed to putting it all on the head coach, or like you talked about, Patrick, having to have your freshman quarterback go out there and talk about it, or your sophomore quarterback go out there and talk about it. I say freshman because Luke Doty was the freshman last year, and even when Jake Bentley had the best win of his career and upset top 25 Tennessee. Well, he's a freshman, so he can't talk about it. And then you can't even help the guys allow him to celebrate in public and with their fans too. It's just you're right, Bill. Mind-boggling, that situation for sure. The Muschamp.
I think the coordinators want to get up there too. Maybe not all of them. Not everybody likes to talk to the media, but I mean, remember last year or 2 years ago, I can't remember which one it was, but Deshaun Watson had gotten all that attention for going these like 5-minute explanations where he's like diagramming out plays to the media and explaining exactly why he did what he did in certain situations. I think a lot of coaches, instead of like BMAC sitting here and hearing radio callers call in and tell him why he's an idiot for calling certain plays, he can just get up there and explain, yeah, they were showing us this. They've been showing us this all game. That's why we dialed up this play. We missed it because of this. And like, I agree. It would make fans sometimes feel better. I mean, Muschamp always did that. He would go in depth on what he was seeing and why certain things happened, which made some people feel better. But a lot of times it was just his overall defiant tone, like, I'm so much smarter than you, why are you criticizing me? And by the end of a couple of years, it was like, all right, well, if you're so smart, why aren't we seeing results? At a certain point, the talk, it doesn't mean anything. But in large part, I think the coaches, rather than just let people who don't know as much about football as them criticize them, they'd like to just get up there and tell you why it happened.
Look, I think it comes down to this with leaders, or believability or confidence that people have in others. I think the genius of Steve Spurrier and other really good leaders is making something very complicated sound very simple. And to me, when I hear the opposite of that, I had a guy come look at my garage doors recently, right? I got old garage doors. The windows just broken in one of them. I gotta replace them. And this guy goes into the details about garage doors and the header and the torsion and the whole thing. And I'm lost. I don't think I'm going to buy garage doors from this. Another guy came out and was like, oh, yeah, you probably want to have a garage door where it works from here instead of there. It just works a lot better. Oh, I get that. I can understand that. Don't tell me about all the details and then this and that. To me, it feels like that guy was covering up or just making it way too complicated for me. I'm automatically checked out. That's how I felt a lot of times hearing Will Muschamp after a game. And I think it was a massive disconnect between he and a fan base. But again, Bill, it really comes down to results as well, because Nick Saban handles things very similarly to Will Muschamp. He wins. He can get away with it. Craig says Muschamp just wanted control of every message, and we were all sick of it. I don't think you were sick of that as much as just sick of that message not translating to wins. And that combination obviously proved to be one that was not going to work out on the long term. And now it's a new era completely. So I get it if you're sick of rehashing the past and you're ready to move forward. That's exactly what Gamecock football will do. Less than an hour and 20 minutes from now, kicking off the Shane Beamer era with preseason practice number 1. Let you hear more from the head coach and his thought process at this point, and some of the Gamecock players after yesterday's media. That's coming up, media day that is. That's coming up next year on the early game on 107.5.
That time of the year where we do start to talk a lot about football and start thinking about tailgating. I was actually reading a thread the other day about how you're going to be able to use television out there at tailgates this year. If you can live stream it, if you're going to have to go to one of the cable networks and maybe uncut the cord, I guess, or do whatever you got to do. Part of all tailgating involves a good tailgating vehicle. And now is the time, if you're looking to visit Love Chevrolet, whether it's a Silverado, a Tahoe, a Suburban, whatever it may be, you need to get that brand new tailgating vehicle, especially get something reliable for the road trips you got to make this year. You got trips up to Tennessee. You got to go over to, where else we got to go? We got to go to Georgia. You got to make sure you have a good tailgating vehicle. Get out to Love Chevrolet and check out 14 acres of brand new tailgating vehicles. Now's the time to do it. Lowest price guaranteed. It's called the $1,000 low price guarantee. You can shop other dealerships, take their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they will top it, or they'll write you a check for $1,000. And I always talk about that sales staff. Very knowledgeable. They'll explain to you why that car or truck is fantastic for tailgating, how it'll help you when you're out there getting ready for the big game. So go visit Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads.
Attaboy, Ty. Now that is how you do August, sir.
That is how you do August 6th.
Love
August 6th, Ty is winning this morning. Agreed there, Troy. Question is, what mistakes will Beamer make, and then how will he handle them, right?
No mistakes.
No mistakes.
Well, I'll point to Mike Bobo as the exhibit A, sir.
No mistakes. And he corrected that. He didn't correct it. Bobo was a good hire. No mistakes.
Yeah, Bo Nix is going to light it up this year.
See, he is now an official spokesman for Bojangles.
Bo Nix is?
That makes sense.
Yep.
That seems to be a conflict of interest because isn't Bojangles sweet tea like one of the things they go to? So can you promote Milo's sweet tea and Bojangles? When I'm eating my Bojangles biscuit, I love my Milo's sweet tea. Like
Milo's sweet tea is nowhere near as good as Bojangles sweet tea either.
That seems to be a conflict of interest.
And you're on mute.
I saw that. For those of us who don't like tea, that doesn't faze me a bit.
Exactly. Same here.
I think all of the fast food places have great sweet tea. McDonald's has great sweet tea. Popeyes has great sweet tea. Bojangles has great sweet tea.
Look, I can't wait to see some of the signs at college game day and in the stadiums now that these kids have these deals. I mean, at Bo Nix, how many times is it's Bo time going to be just thrown right back in his face after an interception or anything else?
And I'll tell you, Bojangles is definitely on it as far as kids are concerned because, the Aaliyah Boston video.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
Am I crazy or did Kevin Harris sign a deal with Bojangles too? I felt like two South Carolina. Was it Harris?
Yep.
Did Jabari Ellis?
Yep. Jabari Ellis. Board.
Okay.
Did y'all see? I just caught this last night looking at the roster, and then I had to go back and look. Rod Fitton changed his changed his name to Hot Rod Fitton.
Legally, it's legally on the roster, so it's definitely.
No, I think he actually legally. I thought he did it. Did he not do it? I thought he legally changed it.
Get out of here.
Wow.
Debo Samuel's name was Debo on the roster.
Right.
His name's not Debo.
He got married and he changed it. Come on.
You gotta act like this is some kind of crazy thing that he.
It is crazy to think that he legally changed his name to Hot Rod.
That you equate what's on the roster to legal documents.
Right.
Well, I'm not saying it's hard, Trey. We're just saying that would be an extreme step, I think. An unnecessary one than to say, hey, Steve Fink, here's what I want on the roster.
Right.
Coach Beamer, you go with that? All right, thank you.
Gullah Bill Gunter.
How I would have that conversation is you better have at least X amount of this, and this. Otherwise, you have not earned Hot Rod.
There you go.
Well, I don't think he's done any of those things. Whatever this, and this might be, he's probably not done them.
Maybe it was a practice thing. There would definitely have to be something you would have to do before I give you that respect. Jen and I agree on the sweet tea, but I'm actually from the South, so it's much more blasphemous.
It is.
She's not supposed to like sweet tea. They didn't have it on the phone.
Yeah, no, I mean, like sun tea, my mom would make, the tea put out in sun, but they never put like a bunch of sugar and all that, brewing it and all that kind of stuff. I have one sister flying out today. She and we don't drink coffee. We don't drink tea. My other sister who's flying in tonight loves tea, but does not want sweet tea. We're just weird. So
most people in my family get unsweet tea and then just put the sugar in themselves,
Yeah.
the sweetener in themselves. But I like it as sweet as possible.
yeah, no, my sister Julie, if she knows it's sweet tea and she's like, no, just not. Not a fan.
I want my teeth to hurt by the time I'm done drinking like a
Good
cup of tea.
grief.
That sounds
You're gonna
refreshing.
end up with more kidney stones.
I bet too.
Mm-mm. It looks refreshing. Kind of wish I did drink it.
This actually is a great perk.
Jim, did I do that backwards?
Technically in
I
the
think I
South,
did.
but
I was just texting you,
realistically
so
not.
yeah. So just do Crowder at 8:40.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why that dawned on me like right now.
No, because literally I was typing to you, so.
Possibly so.
My bad. I had the Crowder info up in the last one. Did you do Love Chevy?
Yeah, I wasn't.
You were correct, Tim.
I knew I had 2 of them to do. I don't know why, because I had looked at it 3 or 4 times. I don't know why I guess because I really got excited about tailgates. I was reading. I really was actually reading about that because 2 years ago we tried to stream.
We're heading back
really
in.
2 years ago we tried to stream. I guess it was.
What, Heath on his Twitch?
No, we tried to stream like we take TV out there and we try to play it off of
Cut two.
Whatever you call them, hotspot, and it was almost impossible to stream games, while you're tailgating.
Straight in.
Jinx. I hang out with 6-year-olds too much.
Of our facility, I would hope you would feel love. I would hope you would feel gratitude, positive energy, trust, toughness, accountability, competition. I mean, those are the things that we want this program to be about. And to me, you do those over and over and over again, over and over and over again. That becomes, your culture.
Yesterday, Gamecock Media Day ahead of today's kickoff, preseason practice number 1, which is about an hour and 10 minutes away. Again, closed to the public, all preseason long. At least that's the plan right now. And Gamecock fans will get their first look September 4th, 4 weeks from tomorrow, when the season will kick off in Columbia at Williams-Brice with Eastern Illinois. Bill, what we heard right there kind of goes into the conversation of Carolina football being talked about in a much different way. The question will be, all right, what about the work now? The easy part's over. The easy part was coming in and talking about creating a different culture and then starting to install that with new people all over the place. And when things are new, it is much easier to do, to get people excited, to maybe put past a little adversity and move forward. I think what Shane Beamer is saying right there, and he was asked as well, what kind of sales pitch did you feel like you had to give guys to maybe make a change, or how do you feel like they've taken to that? And he mentioned that it hasn't been a sales pitch. He doesn't see it like that. He just sees it as him being him. And I think that's what we're about to see, right? How does that fit as the head coach at South Carolina? How does his assistant coaches fit with his philosophies and his structure and what he wants to do? And then how does that get translated to players now in the next 4 weeks, so they'll be ready to do it on the field in a season where not a lot is expected, and winning hasn't become a habit for this program in the last couple of years. It's been the opposite.
Yeah, and I mean, you just have to kind of, I guess, push that mindset daily. And look, there's I know people don't like the comparison, but there is a coach in the upstate that pushed his vision even when he was losing 5 straight games to his rival, and he was winning a lot of games, but he pushed his vision, and obviously it is paid off. Does that mean Shane Beamer's vision will pay off to that level? I would venture a guess no, given the conference. But you do have to develop some kind of vision, and I think to an extent Will Muschamp tried to do the same thing. But you have to win football games. You have to be able to coach in a football game and make good decisions. That's where Shane Beamer can separate himself, and then when you start winning, those visions, those words, those key phrases, whatever you want to say, that sales pitch, and that's what it is. they take hold and your program takes off and people really buy into it. Right now this program needs good things to happen to it, right? Like as bad as the last 6 games were, and the last 3 were brutal. I mean, the last 2, I guess, were more brutal. The Georgia and the Kentucky game, just getting blown off the field. Throw in 4 games before that, the Texas A&M and the Mississippi game. This program needs good things. It needs positive momentum and positive energy right now. You're going to get that during spring or during the fall camp. What happens? How does that translate onto the field when you actually get out there and you've got to play Eastern Illinois and positive things happen? Does the momentum get rolling downhill? Is it a continued push uphill? That's what I'm kind of interested to see here in season 1 from Shane Beamer.
Well, I think we all are to an extent, and a lot of it will have to do with quarterback production, which Gamecock football hasn't had a ton of recently. Luke Doty speaking yesterday at Gamecock Media Day as well. Wanted to let you hear some of his thoughts about what he's been focusing on this offseason and where he feels like he's made some improvement.
One or 2 things to work at each and every day, whether it be, drop backs, play action, ball placement, just like that I know I can go out there by myself and improve on and just work out it each and every day.
So that's what he's talking about from an off-season perspective, and it is different. He goes into this preseason practice being the starting quarterback, also asked about kind of that role and that title that he holds, how he is approaching it at this point.
It's just something that I got to keep working to make sure that I maintain. It's nothing's ever given to us. Even though Coach Beamer, named me the starter after the spring game, that was just the first step. Now it's on me to continue to grow into that role. As a leader, as a quarterback, as a player, it's going to be on me to continue to come out every single day with the energy, with the desire to push myself and my teammates to get better. And I feel like I'm in a really good position to do that. And that's something that I'm pretty eager to start doing, especially tomorrow, right out the gate.
Luke Doty yesterday, Gamecock Media Day, ahead of today's first practice that's kicking off in about an hour from now. And Bill, this goes back to the conversation we had a little bit earlier, hearing from DeCarrion Joyner and knowing how much respect I think he has from both inside and outside the program for his character, for how he's handled adversity, coming in as a Mr. Football in the state of South Carolina and a highly recruited guy, and it not working out at quarterback, and it hasn't really worked out in his transition to wide receiver either from a production on the field standpoint. And I asked you, can you be a leader and not produce on the field? And that's what popped up to me in Luke Doty's comments right there. He has the personality, clearly, and the leadership traits that you need from your quarterback. Now it's going to be a matter, from my standpoint, of, all right, what are you going to do on the field? Because I always go back to that Steve Spurrier approach of him telling his assistant coaches to tell other guys in the locker room to shut up if they were trying to lead. And he's like, yeah, that guy doesn't even play. Tell him to shut up. Nobody's listening to him. So to me, the question remains from Luke Doty's standpoint, what needs to happen at quarterback, especially early on in the season, for him to earn more respect on the field from his teammates than what we saw towards the end of last year, where, again, Luke Doty put in a near impossible situation. Don't get me wrong, as a true freshman going in and an offensive line who struggled in pass blocking and very limited wide receiver options at the end of last season, though.
I mean, I said the other day, and I still believe it, he doesn't need to be great. He needs to be Phil Petty right now. He that's what he needs to do. And, we read off Phil Petty's stats in the New Mexico State victory when South Carolina broke the 21-game win streak. And it was 10 of 18 for, I think it was like 87 yards and no touchdowns. And South Carolina is going to have a good running back group this year. And that's going to be how they that's going to be how they win games. It's hard for me to believe that Luke Doty is going to go out there and be able to throw for 300 yards in a game, and that's how South Carolina's going to win. He's, in my opinion, and unless things have changed drastically, he's just not there. And I don't think Jason Brown is either. I don't think Jason Brown is necessarily going to be that quarterback. You're going to have to win with the run game. What Luke Doty's going to have to do, to answer your question, is manage the game. Make some plays with his legs when things break down. Make a pass here or there, but you don't have to go out and win the game. Manage the game. Get the ball to the running backs. Run the offense that Marcus Satterfield wants to run. And that's how I think you develop the team. That's how he develops confidence in his teammates believing in him.
But you can't do that against Georgia, though, right?
Right. Well,
different.
I mean,
like you can't. You don't have that much time to work up to it. You have 2 games.
Well, Carolina did it a couple of years ago, right? They certainly didn't win the game from the quarterback position. A couple of years ago, they got a pick 6 from Israel Mukuamu and a huge day defensively. And
no, but Helinski did make that incredible throw to Brian Edwards.
Yep,
which not many
one time. And I think really had his best game as a Gamecock before he left that game injured. If we're going to go back there, but that's old news. I'm with you, Bill. And as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, you got to have a quarterback who doesn't lose you games. But I don't think Carolina has had a quarterback. You know, it was the one Helinski game against Missouri where he really hurt the team, and it was near impossible to overcome his mistakes and that weird catch your own pass and knock it down and the fumble and the whole thing. I feel like we've had a lot of discussions. I get sick of hearing myself come in and say, I can't put all this on the quarterback. I don't know if it's all the quarterback's fault because of the other issues going down. But at some point, the quarterback has to shoulder the blame. And I'm with you to a certain extent, Patrick, that Doty will be required in certain games to be more than just a solid game manager. I think he's going to have to make some plays, just whether it's with his feet or in the passing game, that will make a difference and win football games.
Let's go back. What do you think? The 2 biggest upsets of Georgia in the last 20 years have been in 2000 when Quincy Carter threw basically passes to everybody not named Georgia receivers, 5 interceptions that day. I don't have Phil Petty stats that day, but I guarantee you Phil Petty wasn't firing it all over the stadium and having a monster day. And the same to your same point. In 2018, Ryan Helinski threw several good passes, but he threw one great one to Brian Edwards down the sideline. But it was the defense. That's how South Carolina has to win this year. And I'm interested to see how this team relates back to that 2000 team, because there wasn't you have a massive difference in Lou Holtz, who's a Hall of Fame coach, and Shane Beamer, who's getting his first coaching job. But you looked at that team coming off of 0-11, and you looked at this team coming off of 2-8. Maybe a conversation for next week or for later on this month. For those that remember it, how do you compare your feelings going into that second season with Lou Holtz versus how you feel going into 2021? Because to me, those are the 2 low points of South Carolina's last 30 years, 0-11, 2-8, and how you compare those teams trying to bounce back the next year.
Several of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line now. We're talking about the difference between Will Muschamp's approach and handling issues as opposed to Steve Spurrier's. And Ray's got a good line here. He says he's in sales, and they have a saying they use: if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, don't baffle them with BS. And Muschamp was good at the latter, Ray says. Scott mentioning the national over-under at 3.5. He says, I'm headed to the casino next week. Every time I think about laying $1,000 on the over, it makes me doubt 4 wins. But I'm likely to say at least 500 on the season anyway. We'll send y'all a picture of the ticket. I like how Scott is putting his money where his mouth is. And Bill, you mentioned how some Gamecock fans are ultra excited and optimistic about Shane Beamer and completely buying in at this point. And Monty seems to be leading that charge on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. He sent it to multiple shows, I believe, and he left a very impassioned hot take hotline message the other day. And we've got a traffic update coming up for you here.
I love this program.
Jen just took her camera off the live video stream. Frustrated in that one, by the way. No, Monty was looking for a traffic update, but he also says that Shane Beamer will win more overall games, more wins against top 25 teams, more wins against Clemson and bowl wins than any other South Carolina coach ever, and goes on. And it says, I will die on this hill. So he is ultra bought in to this point and convinced that Shane Beamer will take this program exactly to where I think all Gamecock fans want it taken to. We'll see how true those words turn out to be. And we'll start to see real quick here within the hour is when the first preseason practice kicks off in the Shane Beamer era. Football season is here. We'll give you a little bit of a breakdown of the exhibition game last night where a couple of Gamecocks fared pretty well in Steelers versus Cowboys Hall of Fame game. Also let you hear a few last thoughts from Gamecock football and yesterday's media day. You're listening to the early game here on 107.5.
Amongst the things you're probably doing this weekend, getting ready for football season, that probably means getting out, mowing the grass, doing a little weed eating, hedging, all those fun things that Jen Jensen loves to do on a weekly basis. You might just be getting it done this weekend. And part of getting it done is also reviewing your house. You might be looking around thinking, you know what? Great time to save a little money on my mortgage payment. You can do that. Get in touch with the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. 5-minute phone call. That's all it takes. A little bit of information you give him. He can see if you qualify for a lower interest rate. Maybe you can do that, refinance. If you got some equity in your home, you can get some money back that you can use on a project or season football tickets. One of the few things that doesn't take long, you just have to do it. 803-719-1005. That is Jacob's cell phone. He and Brian Kovar teaming up to help people across the Midlands with First Palmetto Bank. And again, those interest rates are low, and Brian Kovar wants you to tell you not to get caught watching the paint dry. That means don't miss this golden opportunity. 803-719-1005. That is the cell phone of one Jacob Crowder, the mortgage guru. You can also email it, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com. Don't miss an opportunity. 5-minute phone call. That's all it takes. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. Texas is back within 2, but Maryland's driving. 8 minutes to go.
This is the first one, right?
Yeah, because didn't they go to Texas in 2019?
I can't remember if they won the first one in Texas or in DC.
Okay.
This was... What year was the NC State game?
2017.
So this was the second one then, I think. Because I watched the first one in Charlotte before the NC State game.
So they lost him in 2017?
No, they beat him both times.
No, well, I meant Texas. I was looking at it from the side because I'm looking at the Texas schedule right now. Yeah, Texas lost at home on September 2nd, 51-41. Shane Buechele threw for 375 yards. Great.
Yeah, and Maryland had to go to their backup quarterback, Kasim Hill, who was at Tennessee. I don't know where he's at now. Got hurt. Where's Kasim Hill? University of Rhode Island. Yikes.
It's impressive.
Oh, man, I forgot to take the trash out.
Oh, you know what? That's a good. Let me go see if mine got taken off. I put it out, but I don't know if it was a trash.
Blown opportunity. All right, I agree with this. I'm just looking through the list of the highest ranked quarterbacks, and just if we look at Doty's class alone, I mean, there's a lot of guys. Obviously, Bryce Young and DJ are higher recruited, but they're going to be expected to lead national championship teams this year. CJ Stroud, same deal, expected to lead a national championship team this year. Harrison Bailey is behind Luke Doty in the recruiting rankings, and Texas A&M fans aren't going to take it easy on him if he doesn't play well or doesn't win them games with his arm. Max Johnson is 14 spots below Luke Doty, and he's going to be expected to win games for LSU. It's like, whoa. And if I keep scrolling down, the number 29 rated quarterback recruit in the class of 2020 from Minneapolis, Minnesota. You know who it is, Tim?
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
No, give me another hint, though.
He didn't play college football.
Didn't play college football, is that what you said?
Yeah.
So he played baseball?
No. Bill, the 29th rated quarterback recruit in the class of 2020 from Minneapolis.
Jalen Suggs.
There you go.
Nice. Wow.
I knew he was good. I didn't know he was.
Yeah.
Let's see some people he was rated above. Do I know any of them? TJ Finley. Ken Seals, the Vanderbilt starter. Will Rogers, Mississippi State. Interesting.
Got me a bottle of Angels Envy for the weekend. Should be a pretty good weekend. What's on television?
You don't have HBO Max, do you?
No.
Suicide Squad came out today.
Did it? I don't think that's a kid-friendly movie, though.
No, apparently this one is incredibly violent.
Yeah.
Jen, you're still on mute.
I'm about to give this up. It's a NASCAR race. You've got an IndyCar race on the streets of Nashville. That should be fun to watch. That's on Sunday. This is the NASCAR race. I know you're waiting for all those words of wisdom as far as what to watch.
No, you know what? I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. I'm willing to bet that it's Sunday, right? NASCAR on Sunday. So I'll probably, if the weather's nice, the TV will probably be moved outside. And there will probably be some NASCAR on, because that's what I'm saying. Sports-wise this weekend. Next weekend, you get like a full slate of NFL preseason games. So while I won't be watching a ton of I'll have it owned. But this weekend, I don't even know if there's a lot of great like sports. I'm kind of done with the Olympics. Football started. The Olympics are kind of.
There's 3 more days. 2 more days.
Exactly.
Don't give up on it yet.
I was looking at the schedule for today. So I wonder what they'll replay tonight.
I saw the thing, something about marathon, but at 10:30 is the gold medal game.
Yeah, I would imagine they'll play the women's basketball game.
I don't know. They've given them a whole bunch of love, but
That's because they're trying to push everyone to Peacock with that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, they've tried.
Very annoying.
So Jen I'm going to do a liner. Would like to do number 10 right after that, and then we'll have them all in there. Thanks for doing all that.
Yep. Oh, good. That's right.
3 weeks from today, that's when we tee it off, our 14th anniversary golf tournament presented by Integrated Media out at Charlotte Club. Would love for you to be a part of things. Friday, August 27th, 10 a.m., 4-man captain's choice team. Breakfast and lunch provided out there. Panera and Little Pigs, we appreciate their help. Going to help to raise some money for Camp Cole in the process. Give away a trip to Kiowa for the winning team. Raffle off a pair of tickets to the Gamecock football home opener. Give Charwood a call if you would like to be part of the festivities. Again, August 27th, our 14th anniversary golf tournament. 803-755-2000 is the number for Charwood, 755-2000. Give them a call. Tell them you want to play. You can register as an individual or as a team. However you want to do it, would love to have you on August 27th for the 14th anniversary golf tournament. Right now, would love for you to hear a little bit more from Marshawn Lloyd, the ultra-talented freshman running back who didn't get on the field last year for the Gamecocks because of an injury, not lacking confidence for his position group heading into 2021.
We have a great backfield. I just feel like we have I think one of the best running backs room in the country, like for sure. And I just want to be able to get out there and show the world, that we're able to compete at a high level with anybody.
Again, Marshawn Lloyd
from Gamecock Media Day yesterday. Preseason practice less than an hour away. Bill, I guess as we wrap up the week here, and wanted to remind everyone that last night Rico Dowdle, former Gamecock, led all rushers in the Hall of Fame game. Pittsburgh beating Dallas 16-3. Israel McQuam also got plenty of playing time in the secondary at safety for the Cowboys and looked pretty good. Ended up with 3 tackles in that game. But
As we conclude the week, Bill, your thoughts as the Shane Beamer era kicks off preseason practice here in about 45 minutes.
It's good to see some excitement. I don't feel like after the Belk Bowl, I don't know how much excitement there really was. I think it was almost maybe fake excitement, people trying to get fired up for Will Muschamp. Last year, obviously, what we were going through at the time with the pandemic, with COVID and everything, and then just hoping for football. But even if you just narrowed your focus to football, coming off of a 4-8 season, the animosity that was building toward Will Muschamp at that time, it's nice just to have people that are excited, that hope. Who knows how the season's going to turn out? Who knows how the next 4 weeks will shape South Carolina football getting ready for Eastern Illinois? But it's actually nice to have a little bit of energy and excitement and optimism, as opposed to, Tim, what I feel has been a very dark period for South Carolina football the last 24 months, I would say.
Yeah. And you can go back even a little bit further than that, just the Muschamp hire. Patrick, that's kind of when you came to Gamecock football. So we'll put all of this on you. And guessing maybe seeing this for the first time might be a breath of fresh air from your 25-year-old eyes.
Yeah. I mean, because my first year here was Spurrier's when he quit midseason. So there was not a lot of excitement for Will Muschamp. I came here because I was like, oh, this football program's awesome. I got Steve Spurrier. I'm going to win the SEC East every year. This is going to be amazing. He's got this thing rolling. So, yeah, no, this is definitely a breath of fresh air. Maybe it's just because I graduated and I'm no longer cursing the program.
We'll see what comes of preseason practice, and it starts again in 45 minutes from now. Glad you're a part of the program today. Appreciate all the participation, no matter how you did it, with the Love Chevy phone lines, the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, on the live video stream on Facebook and YouTube Live. Love for you to subscribe to that YouTube page, by the way, if you haven't, by the way, 1075 The Game. Appreciate you listening to the early game all week long. Hey, it's football season from here on out. That's fun. Dan Pachter Show coming up next.
And Bill, yeah, I'm going to need you to do a Corley poll here because I didn't catch it where it didn't belong. So maybe like as soon as this update is over, can you do a live?
You asking me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't turn it on. What do you need me to do?
Corley pool.
Yeah, can you do an endorsement? The Corley Pools, do it live in this 57 break.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it.
Do it after what now?
After the CBS update, like in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Or we can do it in a minute and a half. You want to finish the live stream?
Let's knock it out.
See you
after the CBS update
on Monday.